Chapter 386. However, Zishan was not able to feel any bit of happiness from freedom. Seeing how much pain Yihong was in, what kind of freedom would she want? Yihong. Zishan could be seen running towards Yihong and hugging onto Yihong. Zishan's heart was aching faintly. Yihong was just a bit exhausted, but seeing that the person she liked was fine, Yihong was very satisfied. With a smile on her face, she said, "Zishan, you are finally free. Why are you so stupid?" Zishan raised her fist and lightly punched at Yichan, just like a little girlfriend who was acting coquettishly. Yihong smiled foolishly and said, "Big brother often says that I'm stupid." After finished speaking, Yihong faced Yihua and shouted out respectfully, "Your Honor, thank you." "No need, because it's all up to you now." These words caused Yihong and Zishan to be startled. Suddenly, 3 powerful auras appeared, and this caused Zishan's beautiful face to change. His Highness men had arrived. "Zishan, it seems like someone has come to bring you home," Yihua said calmly. This group of people came quite quickly. Yihong slowly stood up. Her physical strength had also recovered quite a bit. Yihong smiled and said, "Zishan, then I will send you back." Big Brother Green really wanted to slap Big Brother Green. The other person was obviously going to stay behind for you. And you still want him to leave? Is there something wrong with your brain? Then, let's go out and say our goodbyes. Don't disturb my mood of watching TV, Yihua said calmly. He was very curious if Zishan would leave or not. Yihong had indeed thought that Zishan would leave, so she wanted to send Zishan off. "Let's go." Yihong's tone was still filled with reluctance. But what else could she do? His honor was able to keep her body, but he was unable to keep her heart. Yihong held Zishan's hand and walked out of the villa. After the two of them left, Qing Yutong shook her head. What a fool. Everyone couldn't help but nod their heads. Even Yihua felt that Yihong was foolish enough to not understand a woman's heart. This was something that he had to learn from the main body. However, the Dragon Rebel sword, which had been set aside, seemed to be very embarrassed and ignored. The two walked out of the villa and happened to run into Lin Hong and the other two. Zishan didn't want to cause trouble in front of her house, so she disappeared with Yihong. Lin Hong and the other two were slightly taken aback and followed. However, their gazes were filled with astonishment because just now, that man seemed to be holding on to Madame Zi Yuan's hand. Zishan had chosen an open plane. Right now, Yihong was feeling a little dizzy. He who does not have the strength to fly at such a high speed would not be able to withstand it, and his nose was already bleeding. Seeing that Yihong's nose was bleeding, Zishan used her sleeves to wipe it off. Right now, it was the posture of a woman hugging a man. Yihong, who was lying in Zishan's embrace, opened her eyes in a daze, then looked at Zishan's chest and muttered, "So big, so round." Zishan, if this had happened more than a month ago, Yihong would have no impression of him at all. Perhaps he would have really left just like that. Yihong seemed to have woken up, and when she saw that she was actually lying in Zishan's embrace, she immediately left Zishan's embrace and explained, "I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." That's right. Yihong had always been very polite and courteous to Zishan. However, he was also very concerned about Zishan. It's just that his EQ is a little low. This is giving Zishan a headache. "Forget it," Zishan said indifferently. Yihong heaved a sigh of relief. This person was about to leave. She couldn't leave a bad impression. "Zishan, will you return?" Yihong asked weakly. Zishan really wanted to learn from Big Brother Green and slapped the back of Yihong's head. Yihong actually dared to ask such a stupid question. Without waiting for Zishan to reply, Lin Hong and the other two rushed to the scene, then knelt down on one knee and shouted out, "Subordinates Lin Hong, San Shi, and Lily, greet Madame Zi Yuan." Yihong looked at the 3 people in front of her. Are these the people who are on Zishan's side? My mood is very disappointed. Stand up. Right now, Zishan was emitting out a noble aura, as if she had turned into a high and mighty deity. This caused Yihong to be unable to differentiate which one was the real Zishan. Lin Hong and the other two stood up and stared at Yihong. San Chi shouted out sternly, "Audacious! Madame Zi Yuan is not someone a lowly person like you can touch." Right now, Yihong was still holding on to Zishan's small hand. Hearing that San Shi had shouted out for her to stop, Hong let out a sigh and let go of Zishan. This wasn't because she was scared by San Shi. Rather, she was reminded by San Shi that it was time for her to let go of Zishan's hand. Although it hasn't been 2 months, but every single day was much happier than before. Eating the food that Zishan cooked, watching Zishan's figure that was busy in the kitchen, was a kind of happiness. This made Hong realize what love was. It was very sweet, but also very sour. Lin Hong said respectfully, "Madam Ziyuan, His Highness is summoning you back." Zishan took a deep breath. It seemed like she had made some kind of decision. The kind of life that she had in the past was not what she wanted. "Call me Zishan." Lin Hong and the other two were slightly startled, not understanding what Madam Ziyuan meant. "Tell Prince Ho that I won't go back." Zishan's following words made Lin Hong and the other two dumbfounded. Hong was shocked. Her mouth was agape in disbelief. Could it be that she was deaf? Just a moment ago, Zishan said that she wasn't going back. Lin Hong reacted and squeezed out a smile. "Madam Ziyuan, please don't make things difficult for me. Today is Prince Ho's birthday. What does his birthday celebration have to do with me? He is my husband." Zishan held on to Hong's hand and encouraged Hong. At the same time, Zishan was also expressing her stance. Even a fool would be able to see through such an attitude, let alone Hong. Of course, she would be able to understand. Not only did Zishan not return, she even admitted her identity. Heavens! Happiness was too sudden. This time, he really had a wife. Lin Hong observed Madam Ziyuan and muttered, "Madam, did you fall under some kind of demonic technique?" "Madam, you don't have to worry. Prince Ho will naturally undo these restraints." Zishan snorted coldly. Demonic technique? Zishan could be seen hugging onto Hong's waist, then slightly tiptoed and kissed Hong. Hong's mind was completely blank. Compared to the first time they kissed, the kiss this time was exceptionally sweet. As a man, Hong naturally wouldn't let Zishan bear the pressure alone. Taking the initiative, Hong hugged onto Zishan's waist with both of her hands and enjoyed Zishan's cherry lips. In such a situation, Lin Hong and the other two completely treated Lin Hong and the other two as heir. They foolishly watched as their madam kissed a lowly person. After a long while, the two of them gradually separated from each other, and a long silver line was actually pulled out from each other's lips. "Zishan, are you really not going to leave?" Hong couldn't help but want to confirm. Zishan revealed out a very natural smile, then looked at Hong and said, "I'm not leaving. If I leave, who will cook for you?" "That's great." Hong was excited like a child as he hugged onto Zishan and spun around. If Hong didn't put in any effort, Zishan wouldn't have fallen in love with him. Chapter 387. Of course, there was another possibility, and that was fortune favors fools. This was something that could not be solved. Up until now, within Yi Hua's entire subordinate group, there were only 3 people who had good luck. The first one was Death Mage. With his skeleton body, he was able to flirt with a big sister. Furthermore, there was even a language barrier. Yi Hua didn't even understand how Death Mage managed to flirt with Sun Fang. Yi Hua imagined that if he were to reveal his true body in front of Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, the 2 women would definitely roll their eyes and faint. The second is Zhu Tian. His luck is also very good, because he has a woman that everyone wants to bully, Dongfang Yu'er. After all, with Dongfang Yu'er's looks, coupled with her delicate demeanor, she was truly a beauty. However, only Absolute Heaven could bully her. Hence, it could be said that Absolute Heaven was also a lucky person. The third lucky person would naturally be Hong. The difference in status between him and Zishan was obvious. Although Zishan was being restricted by Yi Hua, Zishan wasn't afraid in the slightest. At most, she would just die. However, under Hong's care and consideration, Zishan seemed to have gradually fallen for Hong. In actuality, ever since that day when Zishan died, Zishan had begun to slowly fall for Hong, because this was the first time she had seen a man go crazy for her. That kind of feeling was something that she had never experienced before. Yi had used her sincerity to move Zishan, while Absolute Heaven and Death Mage had used brute force to subdue Zishan. There was a difference between the two. Let's talk about the unluckiest. Of course, it was the Supreme Overlord Yihua. The reason why Yihua was unlucky was because his luck was too good to have met two women that he couldn't afford to offend. Of course, Yihua liked the two of them. If not, why would he pamper them so much? Even if they were separated right now, wasn't this another kind of pampering? However, looking at the way things were going, Yihua planned to create the most compassionate team. Hee, you're thinking too much. Lin Hong's eyes were filled with killing intent as he shouted, Madame Ziyuan, please pay attention to your manners. You are smearing Marquis Wang Ye's reputation. Yi placed Zishan down. Now that Zishan wasn't leaving, Yi naturally wouldn't let her go. All of you listen to me. Zishan isn't leaving anymore. All of you quickly go back to sleep. Yi shouted. San Chi shouted angrily. Where did this ant come from? To actually speak such arrogant words and even take advantage of Madame Ziyuan. I think that you are tired of living. Zishan pulled Yi behind her. After all, Yi did not have any strength right now, and they would be able to kill Yi with just a single strand of her hair. Go back and tell Lord Ho that our fate has come to an end. Tell him to take care of himself. Lin Hong asked gravely, Madame Ziyuan, you have to think carefully. The consequences of what you're doing right now is very serious. If this matter were to reach Marquis Wang Ye's ears. Lin Hong, you don't need to explain, I know, but I also want to give Prince a word of advice. There's always someone better out there. Don't act recklessly. Right now, Zishan also seemed to have the intention of hugging onto Yihua's thigh. With Yihua here, there is no need for us to be afraid of any marquis or princes. Even if someone from the royal family comes, there is no need for us to be afraid. Lin Hong sighed. He turned his palm, and a huge black blade appeared in his hand, while Sanchi had a long whip in her hand, and Lily had a pair of sharp claws in his hand. These three weapons were all ancient godly equipment. Prince Ho has ordered me to bring Madame Ziyuan back. Pardon me for offending you. Go. After finished speaking, Lin Hong leaped high into the air, and the huge blade slashed towards Zishan. A huge godly might was emitting out from the blade, and Zishan's beautiful hair fluttered wildly as she slightly raised her head. A ribbon drilled out from Zishan's sleeve and emitted out a greenish-white colored glazed light, looking very beautiful in the night sky. Bang! The two actually let out a metallic clashing sound, and a huge shockwave exploded out from the center of Yi Hong's heart. The shockwave was deafening. Although Yi Hong, who had turned into an ordinary person, was protected by Zishan, blood was already flowing out from his ears, and his eyes were bloodshot. This kind of pressure was not something that an ordinary person could experience. Sanchi and Li Li, who were at the back, immediately joined the battle, and Zishan did not dare to be careless. These three could be considered as Lord Ho's capable subordinates, and their battle strength was not ordinary. They were still able to fight one-on-one, but to fight one against three, they would not be able to handle it. Yi Hong also knew that he was a burden, so he quickly ran away. Don't give Zishan any trouble, or go back and call Big Brother over. Looking at Yi Hong, who was running away, Lin Hong shouted out to San Chi, capture that man. Yes. Seeing that San Chi was going to capture Yi Hong, Zishan hurriedly went to stop San Chi. However, Lily directly intercepted San Chi, and with Lin Hong restraining San Chi, Zishan could only watch as San Chi captured Yi Hong. With a hostage in their hands, Lin Hong and Lily both stopped. Let him go. Looking at San Chi, who was strangling Yi Hong's neck, Zishan's beautiful eyes became bloodshot, and the pressure that Zishan released from her body gradually rose. Lin Hong said faintly, I can let him go, but you have to go back with us and report to us. All right, I'll go back with you all. Zishan agreed without even thinking. No, don't. With San Chi strangling Yi Hong's neck, it was very hard for Yi Hong to even speak. San Chi smiled in disdain, then slightly increased the strength of its grip. A lowly ant dares to cling onto a dragon. I dare you to touch him again. A vicious aura burst out from Zishan's body, and a blood net actually appeared behind Zishan. Lin Hong's heart sunk as he hurriedly said, "In order to prevent Madame from escaping, subordinate has to use a bit of means." Lin Hong stretched out his palm, and a red rope appeared on his palm. Lin Hong then threw the red rope towards Zishan. The red rope was emitting out a faint light. Seems like it is also an ancient godly item. In an instant, Zishan was bound by the red rope. Seeing that Zishan was bound by Zishan, the huge blade in Lin Hong's hand slashed out an afterimage. Puchi! The huge blade pierced into Zishan's back, and the tip of the blade was exposed at Zishan's chest area. Yihong lowered his head and looked at the tip of the blade on his chest area, then spat out a mouthful of blood. Sanchi and Li Li's expressions were filled with mockery. A lowly person dares to say such words. He is truly reckless. Zishan was completely stupefied. I watched as they killed Yihong, and I was so stupid that I thought that they would let Yihong go, but they didn't plan to let me go at all. Lin Hong used the huge blade in his hand to raise Yihong's body up high, and the blood on Yihong's body seemed to be like a faucet that was turned on, flowing all the way down. After raising Yihong in front of Zishan, Lin Hong said gravely, "Madame Ziyuan, your end won't be any worse than his." To actually dare to make a cuckold of Prince Ho. In this world, there's only one woman who dares to do such a thing. Yihong's eyes were almost unable to open. Looking at Zishan, who was in front of him, Yihong smiled and comforted Zishan. "Zishan, don't worry, my skin is thick. I won't die." However, right after Zishan spoke, blood began flowing out from her mouth nonstop. Zishan was unable to bear it anymore, and 2 streams of tears flowed down from her eyes. "Yihong, don't talk anymore." Chapter 388. I know what you mean. Zishan's tears were like a broken dam. In her entire life, Zishan had never shed so many tears before, and today she actually shed tears for an ordinary person. Yihong laughed foolishly about that. "I hid my money behind your dressing table. Originally, I wanted to save it for your birthday, but it seems like I won't be able to use it anymore. However, even if I won't be able to use it, you still have to keep it for yourself. In the past, Big Brother often cheated money from me, although I know that it was for my own good. Isn't my joke funny? Let's change it to another joke then." "Yihong, don't say any more." Along with the huge blade in Lin Hong's hand trembling, Yihong spurted out a mouthful of blood and powerlessly looked at Zishan. He didn't even have the strength to tell a joke to make Zishan happy. Lin Hong said gravely, "Madame Ziyuan, Prince Ho will definitely be very angry." After finished speaking, Lin Hong swung the huge blade in his hand, and Yihong's body fiercely smashed onto the ground, smashing out a dent. As an ordinary person, how could Yihong possibly withstand such power? Yihong, who was deeply embedded into the ground, no longer had any trace of life. He opened his eyes, and his eyes were filled with reluctance. However, there was still a trace of a smile on the corner of his mouth. He thought that with this kind of action, Zishan wouldn't feel so sad anymore. Zishan looked at Yihong, who was not far away from her. Yihong's tears had already stopped flowing, and her beautiful face seemed exceptionally calm. However, raging flames of anger were burning deep within her beautiful eyes. "Lin Hong, not only will Ho Shulin be angry, I will be very angry as well." Zishan slowly turned her head around and stared at Lin Hong with her beautiful eyes. She emitted out a cold aura, giving off a feeling that there was nothing left to live for. Lin Hong said with a smile, "Madame Ziyuan, I know that you are very angry, but this spirit-binding rope is not a toy." Zishan laughed lightly. "Let's give it a try then." In an instant, dense killing intent emitted out from Zishan's beautiful face. The killing intent was like a raging wave, surging and surging, just like tens of thousands of ferocious horses charging forward at the same time. Mixed within the killing intent was her longing for Yihong. Without Yihong's unique care, what meaning would there be? Boom, boom, boom. Bursts of thunder rang out in the sky, causing one's ears to ring. The spiritual energy in the world gathered towards Zishan, forming a vortex. The air seemed as if it was going to boil, and Zishan was like a dazzling sun that was emitting out the spiritual energy in the world. A huge blood net appeared behind Zishan once again. The blood net emitted a ghostly aura, and the form of the blood net was constantly changing. This caused Lin Hong and the other two to be unable to help but take a step back. This Madame Zi Yuan actually managed to make a breakthrough amidst her grief. "Let's go." As expected, Lin Hong gave the order. Zishan, who had just broken through, was killing them like killing chickens. Zishan shouted, "You want to leave? Leave your life here." Under Zishan's powerful pressure, the spirit-binding rope shook violently and instantly turned into specks of starlight. As for the blood net behind Zishan, it actually materialized. With a ghostly wail and wolf howl, it attacked the three of them. Sanchi and Lili looked at each other, their eyes showing determination. "Brother Lin, leave." "Brother Lin, Lili can't follow you anymore." Sanchi and Lili knew that if they didn't make a sacrifice, the three of them wouldn't be able to leave. Lin Hong turned his head to look at his subordinates that had always followed him, but now was not the time to be pretentious. "Your vengeance, Marquis Wang Yi, will naturally take revenge." The two of them smiled and looked at the incoming blood net. Dark Wolf Fist, Heaven Sealing Demon. Lili and Sanchi used their strongest technique at the same time. Green and golden radiance flickered in the air. The radiance was dazzling and beautiful, and the radiance brought along a huge destructive power as they attacked towards the blood net. However, when the radiance came into contact with the blood net, it was actually devoured alive. However, the radiance was only able to resist for 1 second. Although the radiance was only able to resist for 1 second, it was enough for Lin Hong to return to Heaven's Mansion and report what happened today. The two of them turned their heads around and took a look, then let out a sigh of relief. Brother Lin has finally returned. Sanchi and Lili looked at the conversation between the two of them and smiled, then bumped fists together. "In our next life, we will still be good brothers." Good brothers. There were no living beings within the blood net. In an instant, Sanchi and Li were devoured. Not even a bit of them remained. The blood net in the air gradually disappeared as well. Zishan coughed out a mouthful of blood. The huge burden on Zishan's body caused Zishan to feel indescribable pain. However, compared to Yihang's pain, Zishan's pain was nothing. Dragging her heavy body, Zishan arrived in front of Yihang. Right now, only by rushing back can Yihang be saved. After all, even I managed to survive last time, let alone Yihang. While carrying on to Yihang, Zishan disappeared from the scene. Within the villa's living room, Yihua was eating the grapes that his sister-in-law peeled. "I feel that the grapes taste pretty good. This sister-in-law of mine can be developed into a subordinate." "Your Honor, aren't you going to go and take a look?" Wei Chang asked carefully. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then said indifferently, "This Zishan shouldn't be leaving. Let the two of them go out and strengthen their relationship. After all, there are 3 antagonists." "But Your Honor, didn't you just take back Yihang's strength?" Wei Chang asked puzzledly. Yihua shook his head. "Wei Chang, why are you so straightforward? Didn't you see that Tang Wei, who is beside you, is also looking at me with a gaze of disdain? It is precisely because she lost her strength that the things that she does are even more magnificent." Wei Chang had an I understand look on his face, but in actuality, he was thinking, does this matter? It was indeed shocking to the point that I almost died. Zishan could be seen returning to the villa, while carrying onto Yihang, who had lost her life. Right after opening the door, Zishan collapsed. That blood net used up all of Zishan's spiritual energy. Big Brother Green hurriedly ran over, and when he saw Zishan in his little brother's state, he asked anxiously, "What happened to you two?" "Save Yihang," Zishan shouted out weakly. Yihua stood up and walked over. Taking a look at Yihang, Yihua's brows wrinkled tightly. "What happened?" "It's all my fault. Please save him. I'll listen to you in the future." "I don't dare to disrespect you, Your Honor." After finished speaking, Zishan kneeled in front of Yihua. "I'm asking you what's going on." Yihua shouted out coldly. "My underling's underling was killed, Isn't this the same as slapping my face? I thought that Zishan would be able to protect Yi Hong, but I didn't expect that Zishan would actually die. Zishan told Yi Hua about the entire process, and this caused Yi Hua to be very unhappy. Your Honor, let me exterminate them. After all, Yi Hong is one of my people. Wei Chong was the first to ask for permission. These gods had really lived for a long time. Why don't you take a look at who you're working for? Tang Wei said respectfully, Your Honor, I am willing to go together with Wei Chong. Your Honor, I also want to go and take revenge. Big Brother Green said with red eyes. Yi Hua took a deep breath, then looked at Zishan and said, What about you? Zishan slowly raised her head. Her beautiful eyes were ice cold, and she said in an awe-inspiring tone, Your Honor, I do. Good. Zishan, I will give you this chance. I will let you take revenge for Yi Hong. This is a blood tank. When you fill up this blood tank, I will be able to revive Yi Hong. However, if you're unable to do so, you should know the consequences. Yi Hua stretched out a white container. Qing Yutong looked at the white container, and when she saw that the white container looked like a bottle that contained red wine, Qing Yutong took a look at the dining table, and sure enough, the white container disappeared. Chapter 389. Kill deities. The more you kill, the more you will be able to gather. Yi Hua made a grabbing motion with his palm and grabbed onto the dragon rebel sword that was lying at the side, then tossed it over to Zishan. Then he said, Wei Chong, help treat her. Yes. A black fog came out from Wei Chang's palm. Zishan knew that this was not an ordinary thing. She took a deep breath and slowly closed her beautiful eyes. After a while, Zishan suddenly opened her eyes. Her pupils were incomparably pitch black. She could feel the power in her body, and she felt as if she could split apart the entire heavenly palace. Go quickly and return quickly. Yi Hua said faintly. Yes. After finished speaking, Zishan disappeared from the villa. After Zishan left, Yi Hua said towards Wei Chong, Save him. He looks really uncomfortable. All right, Your Honor. Wei Chong smiled. Wei Chong indeed looked awkward. He threw out another ball of black mist. After Yi Hong, who was lying on the ground, breathed it in, her face gradually turned rosy. In less than a minute, he immediately opened his eyes and asked, Where did Zishan go? Big Brother Green slapped on the ground. Why aren't you thanking His Honor for saving you, fool? Yi Hong hurriedly kowtowed and thanked His Honor. His Honor is too good to me. Not only did His Honor give me strength, His Honor even saved me, and even gave me such a good wife. As long as His Honor says the word, I will be willing to go through fire and water. Yi Hua walked to the sofa and said faintly, Wait for your wife to come back. At that time, remember to play dead. Big Brother Green told Yi Hong about what happened just now, and after Yi Hong heard about it, she felt extremely touched. So, Zishan actually likes me. Yutong, peel an orange. Brother-in-law, you ate too much food that starts a fire. Qing Yutong pouted. Let's go and cut a watermelon then. After eating this watermelon, Zishan should be back by then. Qing Yutong is really convinced, coming to my little brother's house to eat and drink to his heart's content. He is too stingy. Just now, Yi Hua was indeed in a bad mood, and he wanted to directly go over and kill the other party. However, after he calmed down, he felt that it would be better to let Zishan go. After all, it is time for me to settle this matter. At this time, the Marquis Palace was brightly lit. The birthday banquet was obviously not over yet, but all the important figures had left. After all, they had seen this kind of occasion many times. For example, Wu Man and Che Hongliang had both left. It had to be said that these two people were very lucky. They walked really fast. Ho Shuilin sat on the main seat, admiring the dance of the young ladies. He was thinking about where to sleep today. They saw Lin Hong running over in a panic. Everyone looked at the guard's panicked expression and were puzzled. Did something happen? Ho Shuilin frowned slightly. He rarely saw Lin Hong like this. Arriving beside Prince Ho, Lin Hong lowered his body and said softly, Prince Ho, we have found Madame Ziyuan. Just that, but what? Ho Shiuelin was a little excited. He couldn't be dead, right? Lin Hong said gravely. Madame Ziyuan already has a man outside. Hearing those words, Ho Shiuelin suddenly laughed coldly. His lips twitched as he clenched his fists tightly. A terrifying godly might burst forth from him, completely uncontrollable. The dignified Marquis Wang Ye had been cuckolded. If this matter were to spread out, would he still have any face left? The guests below also felt Ho Wang Ye's anger. Something big must have happened. Just when everyone was feeling puzzled, a beautiful figure suddenly walked out slowly. My God, this is Madame Ziyuan. Is this Madame Ziyuan? She is truly beautiful. Even a sky immortal is only SOSO. Her figure is truly wonderful. Prince Hoshur is fortunate to have such a beautiful wife. If I had such a beautiful wife, I wouldn't even take a second step out of my house. That's because you guys have never seen Xingye and Baiji before. They are the true beauties at the very least. They are a grade higher than Zishan. Just by looking at them, one would have a physiological reaction. However, very quickly, someone noticed the bloodstain on Madame Ziyuan's dress, the dragon rebel sword in her hand, and that faint killing intent. Ho Shiuelin stared fixedly at Zishan, who was walking over, and a burst of viciousness immediately erupted from his body. Damned woman, you still have the face to come back. Zishan silently looked at that sinister and ugly face, and suddenly realized that Yi Hong was thousands of times better than him. If it wasn't for him sending people down, Yi Hong wouldn't have died. Today, I am going to kill you, shameless woman, and use your head as a sacrifice to the heavens. Ho Shiuelin no longer concealed his strength, and immediately, a boundless godly might burst forth from him. Everyone's expression became greatly startled. Has this Prince Ho gone mad, killing his wife in front of everyone's eyes? Zishan said coldly, I'm going to use your head as a sacrifice to the heavens for my love. Hearing that, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air. No wonder Prince Ho is so angry. So it turns out that Zishan has a man outside. And now, she is even more arrogant. She is truly too daring. Prince, I will lend you a helping hand. Prince, I will come as well. This kind of woman should be hacked into pieces. I will come as well. I hate women who cheat on me the most. Shoo, your highness is listening. Zishan snorted coldly, then shook the dragon rebel sword in her hand and immediately raised it up. A thin silver thread appeared in the air. The silver thread was so fast that it was impossible to see it with naked eyes, and the silver thread was so fast that it was impossible to even sense the spiritual energy contained within it. This silver thread cut through everything, and no matter what it was that came into contact with the silver thread, it was all cut into two. Because the silver thread was too fast, it didn't even cut into two. You dare to play around with such insignificant skills in front of me, you reckless woman. Ho Shiuelin immediately took out a sword. When the sword appeared, a shocking godly might was emitted out from it. This was definitely a weapon that was above ancient godly item. Die! Sumeru, sword intent. Ho Shiuelin furiously shouted. The sword chi that soared into the sky condensed together, causing everyone to be dumbfounded. The terrifying sword will swept out in all directions, and the sword chi that was at the center of the sword will rush towards Zishan. The silver thread passed through the sword intent in Ho Shiuelin's hand, passed through Ho Shiuelin's neck, and even passed through the buildings behind him. All of this happened in an instant, and Ho Shiuelin still had a sinister smile on his face. The terrifying sword intent did not disappear. It continued to attack Zishan, and everything that it passed through turned into a mess. However, when it was about to reach Zishan, it actually split into two and attacked the surrounding people. Immediately, miserable screams could be heard. The two sword intent exploded within the crowd, and some people directly turned into blood mist. The surrounding people were even more miserable. After all, death was only an instant, and they still had to endure the pain of having their arms cut off. However, the countless amount of blood mist was absorbed into the container in Zishan's hand. Zishan, I didn't expect you to have some strength. Then, receive another sword from me. Ho Shuilin did not feel anything strange about his neck. He only felt a chill. Zishan faintly said, "Then you need to have a sword." Ho Shuilin's gaze became serious, and he could see that his sword was starting to break from the tip. Chapter 390. Why don't I take a look at your hand first? Zishan said in a light voice, and her tone was completely emotionless. Ho Shuilin looked at the hand that was holding the sword. A neat line of blood emerged from the skin, and the middle finger and ring finger began to split apart. Ho Shuilin could only watch helplessly as his arms separated. No, this is impossible. Shock appeared in Ho Shuilin's eyes as he looked at Zishan, who was not far away from him. Suddenly, he felt that his neck was a little cold, as if it was moving and the world in front of him had become crooked. Who is this person in front of me? Why didn't it have a head? Blood sprayed into the sky like a fountain and then fell down. Ho Shuilin wanted to wipe the liquid off his face, but it was useless. Not right. This person's clothes in front of me looks like me. No, this is not possible. Marquis, Lin Hong exclaimed. Ho Shuilin's eyeballs were still moving. Since he was still alive, it could be seen that it was not so easy for a god to die. Take me away. Lin Hong hurriedly held onto Ho Shuilin's head and quickly fled the scene. However, just when he turned around, he saw Zishan. Zishan raised the dragon rebel sword high up and slashed down. The entire world seemed to have fallen silent. Ho Shuilin was once again split into two halves. Lin Hong directly exploded on the spot, but Ho Shuilin still had a primordial spirit. Zishan made a grabbing motion in the air, and the primordial spirit that was charging forward seemed to have been sucked in, and it went straight towards Zishan's small hand. "You shameless bitch, what else do you want?" A series of shouts resounded from the primordial spirit. Zishan did not say anything. She gradually increased the strength of her left hand. Ho Shuilin panicked. "Zishan, what are you trying to do? Stop." "Zishan, in any case, we are husband and wife. A day as husband and wife means 100 days of love." Zishan said coldly. "There is no gratitude between us. There is only hatred." Bang! Zishan directly destroyed Ho Shuilin's primordial spirit. Rich people were indeed willful. Did they not know how awesome it was to refine a primordial spirit? He looked at the container. He didn't expect Ho Shuilin to raise the price by a third, but this scene scared the people below. Prince Ho was one of the top 10 masters, but his spirit was crushed by his own wife. This was too cruel. Furthermore, the ancient divine artifact on the ground was directly cut into two. What kind of weapon could have such great power? This wasn't a woman at all. This was a demoness, a female bandit. A female demon who kills without blinking an eye. In order to save Yi Hong, Zishan was willing to fall into depravity. Yi Hong had saved Zishan twice. Zishan understood this kindness. Zishan was not a cold-blooded person, and she was touched by Yi Hong's tenacity. You have to learn from Yi Hong if you want to woo a girl. Actually, you can see how good you are to her. As long as you break through her last line of defense, she will be yours from now on. Just like the current Zishan, her heart had already followed Yi Hong. For Yi Hong, she had even started a massacre here and bathed the entire prince's mansion in blood. After a long while, when Zishan saw that the container was filled with blood, she let out a sigh of relief. Then, Zishan swept her gaze across the surroundings and saw that there were corpses everywhere. Fresh blood flowed on the bluestone. Not a single person was left alive. After finishing everything, Zishan disappeared from the prince's mansion. However, not long after Zishan disappeared, a large group of people rushed out of the imperial palace and headed towards the prince's mansion. Not only the imperial palace, but there were also people rushing over from all directions. In the dark night, the long line of candles was very easy to recognize. Several groups of people rushed to the entrance of the prince's mansion. Looking at the entire prince's mansion, the smell of blood soared to the sky, and countless wronged souls were screaming and crying. Some of them were Wu Ma En's people, and some were Che Hongliang's people. As for the people who rushed over from the imperial palace, it was the current crown prince, Zhu Jingqing. The crown prince had a dignified appearance and elegant demeanor. His facial features were not a problem at all. If one were to take a look at him, he would indeed be a character. However, Wu Ma knew that the crown prince was actually very dissolute. In the past, he even tried to snatch Zishan from the prince. Unfortunately, he was a Prince Ho, and even the crown prince did not dare to directly snatch Zishan. After all, Prince Ho and His Majesty were sworn brothers. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Wu Man and Che Hongliang respectfully greeted. Crown Prince Zhu Zhengqing looked towards the prince's mansion and said with a grave expression. This crown prince felt a blood light soaring to the sky from the imperial palace, and when I looked around, it was actually the prince's mansion. This crown prince was worried, so I specially brought my personal guards to check it out. Wu Man jumped down from his horse, kneeled on one knee, and said, Your Highness the Crown Prince worries about the subjects and the people. You are my role model. Upon seeing that, Che Hongliang could only get down from his horse and kneel on one knee. After all, he was the crown prince. However, all the guards kneeled on one knee. Zhu Zhengqing enjoyed this moment very much. He was being supported by everyone. They had clearly come to check on the Prince Ho's mansion, but in the end, they had turned into flattery, and the souls inside were still screaming. All of you get up. Thank you, Crown Prince. Zhu Zhengqing patted the unicorn he was riding on. The unicorn's snow-white fur looked very unique among the group, and it was obvious that he was the boss. Guards, go and take a look at what is happening inside. Zhu Zhengqing shouted gravely. 2 guards replied, then ran to the Prince Ho's mansion's entrance and opened the door. Boom! A bloodlight actually rushed out from within the Prince Ho's mansion, causing everyone to jump in fright, and the crown prince almost fell down from his horse. Roar! Roar! The bloodlight transformed into a human face that was screaming nonstop, and there were even more human faces inside the human face. However, the bloodlight seemed to be unable to rush out of the Prince Ho's mansion, as if it was imprisoned inside. Perhaps even Zishan didn't know about the passive ability of the Dragon Rebel Sword, and that passive ability was able to imprison the souls of the dead, thus achieving the effect of torture. There were countless deaths and injuries in the Prince Ho's mansion, and all of the souls that died had turned into bloodlight. This kind of thing was extremely rare. It was something that would only happen once in 1,000 years. Che Hongliang looked at the human face that was screaming in front of him and mumbled, This is bloodlight. After Che Hongliang finished speaking, everyone's expression sunk. Even Wu Ma's expression was the same. Only Zhu Zhengqing had a puzzled expression on his face. What the hell is this bloodlight? Wu Ma, and tell me what this crimson glow is. Zhu Zhengqing asked. Wu Ma hurriedly kneeled on the ground and begged for forgiveness. Your Highness, you absolutely cannot tell me this. Zhu Zhengqing snorted coldly. What do you not dare to tell me? Just tell me what I'm telling you. But there is no but. Wu Ma looked towards Che Hongliang, and the latter turned his face away. The Crown Prince is telling you to tell me, not me. Hurry up. Do you want me to punish you for your crimes? Wu Ma hurriedly said, Your Highness, when the bloodlight appears, the country is in trouble. After hearing what Wu Ma said, Zhu Zhengqing went into a daze for a moment. Then soon after, he laughed loudly. What bullshit is this? Just a bloodlight is enough to scare all of you to this extent. Your Highness, this matter concerns the fate of the country. It is better for us to report this matter to His Majesty. Che Hongliang suggested. Father has already fallen asleep. How can I, the Crown Prince, not make a decision for such a small matter? Men, follow me inside and take a look at the situation. After finished speaking, Zhu Zhengqing jumped off the horse, pulled out his sword, and took the lead. The sword slashed towards the bloodlight, and a dazzling golden light emitted out from the tip of the sword, causing the bloodlight to instantly disperse. Chapter 391. Wu Man and Che Hongliang hurriedly followed after him. Not long after, they saw the crown prince vomiting at the side. Zhu Zhengqing was not the only one vomiting. Many soldiers were vomiting as well. Peace had been around for too long, and the soldiers had never seen such a scene. They almost vomited their guts out. When Wu Man and Che Hongliang saw this, they could not help but vomit. Looking at the entire front yard, the scene was indescribably tragic. Basically, there were pieces of corpses, and there were no complete corpses. Moreover, the air was filled with a pungent smell of blood, as well as a foul stench. After all, some of the intestines were exposed, and they were all filthy things. Zhu Zhengqing couldn't take it anymore and ran outside. Unexpectedly, he stepped on something and tripped. His entire face sunk into a person's stomach. The problem was that the stomach was split open. "Your Highness! Your Highness!" Immediately, a group of people rushed over. Many people fell to the ground. The blood on the ground was sticky and had a lubricating effect. A few guards helped the crown prince up and found that the crown prince had fainted. They hurriedly carried him into the palace and summoned the imperial physician. Che Hongliang and Wu Ma and calmed down a lot, and they silently walked towards the marquee mansion. It turned out that the outside was just an appetizer. The inside was even more terrifying. Who was the one who made this? How inhumane! Old Che, the marquis, should be dead, Wu Man said as he pinched his nose. Che Hongliang frowned deeply. Was Master Ho's death an accident, or was it intentional? After all, many people benefited from Master Ho's death, such as the Crown Prince's faction and his own faction. Report. Found it. A soldier covered in blood ran over to report. Basically, all the soldiers' armors were stained with blood, which was stained when they turned over the corpses. Che Hongliang said in a deep voice, "Bring him here." When they saw Ho Shiulin's corpse, Wu Ma and Che Hongliang were stunned. They knew Master Ho's strength. At this time, Master Ho was divided into 3 parts. His right hand was connected to his head, and his head was divided into 2. From the looks of the wound, it was very neat, cut by a sharp blade. In the morning, the 3 of them were still discussing problems, but in the evening, their entire family was wiped out. The 2 of them couldn't help but wonder if they would have become one of these corpses if they hadn't returned. The answer was obvious. Not long after, the soldiers found Prince Ho's sword. Che Hongliang and Wu Ma knew about this sword. It was an ancient divine weapon. It was not easy to obtain. Marquis Wang Ye's treasured weapon was actually cut in half. Who could have done this? Elder Che, even if His Majesty is resting, you still have to say something. Yes, let's go together. Che Hongliang also knew the seriousness of the matter. The palace was heavily guarded. There were more than 100 buildings of various sizes, but they surrounded the largest palace in the center like guards. However, this night was different from the past. There were many more patrolling soldiers, and the lights in the hall that should have been extinguished were now brightly lit. On both sides of the palace stood solemn-looking guards, all of them armed with swords. According to the rules, guards were not allowed to bring knives into the palace, but the situation today was different. On the throne was a middle-aged man with a dignified appearance. There was a mole at the corner of his mouth, making him look quite unique. He wore a yellow robe and was currently staring downwards. 3 of them were Crown Prince Zhu Zhengqing, Wu Ma, and Che Hongliang. The last one was Heavenly Teacher, Ying Wei. This was a white-haired old man, holding a long wooden stick in his hand. It looked very rough, as if it was directly chopped down from a tree. However, when this old man held it in his hand, it instantly felt different. Perhaps this was the aura of the old man. Ho Shiulin, who was covered with a white cloth, was also in the hall. The dim light made the atmosphere in the hall very heavy, making it hard for people to breathe. Zhu Chengxian lightly knocked on the dragon head armrest and muttered, "Blood aura." Ying Wei cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, the appearance of the blood aura must be guarded against. In order to avoid danger, this official thinks that the imperial hunt should be cancelled." Zhu Chengxian said gravely, "Heavenly Teacher, let's not talk about the hunt for now. First, investigate the cause of Marquis Wang Ye's death." Your Majesty. Marquis Wangye was cut into 3 pieces by a sharp blade. Che Hongliang said respectfully. Open it, and let me take a look. Zhu Zhengqing said hurriedly. Father, Marquis Wangye died a miserable death, or Crown Prince. According to the order of seniority, you still have to call him uncle. Even I have to call him big brother. Father, you are right. Wu Man bowed and lifted the white cloth. Although the white cloth had been pieced together, the mark was still there. Everyone couldn't help but frown. When Zhu Changxian saw Ho Xiulin's corpse, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. It's great that he died. That's right. In the past, they used to address each other as brothers, but this Ho Xiulin relied on his powerful strength and didn't even put the imperial family in his eyes. Furthermore, he had a lot of small tricks up his sleeves. If one day Ho Xiulin were to usurp the throne, Zhu Changxian wouldn't be too surprised. Where is Marquis Wangye's primordial spirit? Father, Marquis Wangye's primordial spirit has dissipated. I sensed this fluctuation and woke up from my bed. I went to check on the situation. Zhu Zhengqing could be considered to be smart. He seemed to want to take all the credit for himself. Zhu Changxian said faintly, Crown Prince, you did well. Che Hongliang slightly frowned. Although this Zhu Zhengqing looks very unrestrained, he is still very smart at times like this. Did you find out who the murderer is? Is it a man or a woman? Is it tall or thin? Zhu Changxian asked, but he was just putting on a show. He really wanted to reward the murderer. You did a good deed and helped me get rid of a great threat. Ingwei said respectfully. Judging from the strength and viciousness of the murderer, it should be a man, and he was also holding a special blade. Celestial Teacher is right, but is there no one left alive in the Ho Palace? Zhu Changxian asked curiously. Father, today is Marquis Wangye's birthday. There are many guests present, including Marquis Wangye's family. None of them survived. Zhu Changxian sighed and murmured, For thousands of years, there has never been such a tragedy in Heaven's Sanctum. We must get to the bottom of this. Yes. Also, bury Marquis Wangye properly. After all, he was my big brother. Yes. Wu Man cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, Marquis Wangye is already dead. The realm under his jurisdiction cannot be left unguarded. Che Hongliang hurriedly said. However, Zhu Zhengqing was even faster. Father, I am willing to take over temporarily. I will wait for you to find a suitable candidate before handing it over. Che Hongliang cursed at his shamelessness and hurriedly said, Your Majesty, His Highness the Crown Prince already has a realm under his jurisdiction. I am afraid that His Highness the Crown Prince is overworking himself. Chapter 392. Wu Man admired the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince really knows how to speak. Zhu Changxian smiled faintly and said, Father Emperor is very happy that the Crown Prince has such a thought. Prince Ho's plane will be temporarily handed over to the Crown Prince to look after, and we will choose another candidate in the future. Che Hongliang almost fainted from anger. Temporarily? Isn't this the same as giving the plane to someone else? Choosing another candidate. This is completely perfunctory. At this time, Ingwei said again, Your Majesty, this hunt, Heavenly Teacher, you are making a big fuss over a small matter. Furthermore, the Huang family's hunt is a big matter for the entire royal family. Which year has it been missing? If it's missing this year, what will the people below talk about it? They will even say that I was scared to the point of trembling in the palace. Is it about this blood-red glow? Heavenly Teacher spoke again. This caused Zhu Changxian to be a bit unhappy. Heavenly Teacher, these are all legends. But, all right, we will stop here for today. Everyone can disperse. Zhu Changxian waved his hand and shouted, This Ho Xiulin is dead, and you want me not celebrate? Seeing the Emperor turn around and leave, Ingwei let out a deep sigh. I would rather believe in the blood-red glow. Your Highness the Crown Prince, everyone, we have to persuade His Majesty about this blood-red glow. Ingwei cupped his hands towards the 3 people and said politely, Zhu Zhengqing knew that Father Emperor thought highly of Heavenly Teacher, so he greeted him with a smile. Heavenly Teacher is too serious. I will definitely pass on the message. Then I will have to trouble your highness the Crown Prince. Ingwei gradually started to be satisfied with this Crown Prince's attitude. Zhu Zhengqing smiled. After everyone dispersed, Wu Man smiled. Congratulations, Crown Prince, for obtaining His Majesty's appreciation and obtaining the right to rule over the plain. This is just a small matter. I can easily get it done. Zhu Zhengqing smiled in disdain. Fight with me. Whoever comes will die. Crown Prince is truly right. Wu Man praised. The more power the Crown Prince has, the better. Zhu Zhengqing placed his hand behind his back and said, Go and make arrangements. We will go and find that Nuwa's descendant in a few days. I heard that Nuwa's descendant has a peerless appearance and innate strength. I am truly envious. Yes. Zhu Zhengqing strode towards his bedroom, mumbling to himself, I wonder what kind of peerless beauties are in that plain. Wu Man heard all of this and bitterly smiled. If the Crown Prince focused on governing, he would definitely be very outstanding. In Long and City's villa, Yihua said faintly, They're here. Yihong lay down with a thud. Her face was as pale as a corpse. Qing Yutong was helpless. It was clearly a good thing, but in the end, because of her brother-in-law's actions, it became as if Yihong was trying to deceive Zishan. If Zishan were to find out that Yihong was deceiving Zishan, Yihong would have to blow up the matter. It was one thing for him to lie to his elder sister, but he still had to teach his subordinate. He was speechless. Zishan's body appeared in the living room. Zishan hurriedly walked in front of Yihua, then bent down and presented the container and Dragon Rebel sword to Yihua. Your Honor, everything is done. Yihua took a look at the blood qi within the container. This woman, when she starts being vicious and merciless, she is simply inhumane. She is even more savage than me. After keeping the Dragon Rebel sword, Yihua said faintly, Pour this blood qi into his mouth. Zishan hurriedly stood up and carried Yihong, who was stiff, all over, then poured her blood qi into Yihong's body. Yihong was also very cooperative, and her body gradually became ruddy. When Zishan saw the change in Yihong, she felt that everything was worth it, and 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. Yihong slowly opened her eyes, and when she saw Zishan, a sincere smile appeared on her face. On the other hand, Zishan appeared to be a lot more unrestrained. In front of so many people, Zishan directly kissed Yihong's mouth. This was domineering. Looking at Uncle Wei, Tang Wei also felt envious in her heart. Uncle Wei doesn't even know how to kiss right now. Qing Yutong could not help but sigh. Even Nicola is being poked by someone. Why is there no one poking me? Do you believe that I won't order you to break up immediately and never see each other again? Let's go, let's return. Yihua said gravely. Your Honor, I will send you back. Wei Chong hurriedly followed after Wei Chong. Green and Red brothers, die. And Zishan shouted out respectfully, Farewell, Your Honor. After his honor left, Yihong felt a bit embarrassed, and she didn't even dare to look straight at Zishan. Right now, the two of them were no longer bound by the shackles, and Yihong had also pierced through the layer of paper. Of course, there was still the final layer of paper that was not pierced through. Big Brother Green said with a smile, I'm going to sleep. You guys do as you please, but keep your voice down. Yihong's face reddened as she scratched onto the back of her head and said, I'm going to take a bath first. I'll get the hot water for you. No need. No need. I can get the hot water myself. Yihong didn't dare to let Zishan do anything else. Walking into the bedroom, Yihong finished taking a bath while feeling nervous. Yihong discovered that Zishan was actually already lying on the bed. Right now, without the restriction of distance, they are able to sleep in separate rooms. Yihua thought to himself that Zishan might have gotten used to sleeping on the bed. I'm going to sleep on the other side. Yihong said in a low voice. Zishan, who was lying on the bed, had a light red face. Husband and wife have to sleep together. What do you mean by going to sleep on the other side? Are you going to divorce me? All right, this is Zishan's original personality. She is very straightforward, and of course, she is also a bit hot-tempered. Of course not. Then why aren't you coming over? Yihong had no other choice but to go over to Zishan and spread out the bed on the floor, just like before. Zishan was almost speechless. I already made it so obvious. Go to the bed and sleep. Go to the bed and sleep. Zishan really couldn't take it anymore. Every time I say something, he will move a bit. Yihong said in a low voice, "No need. I'm fine sleeping here. If I tell you to go to the bed, then go to the bed." "But I feel that," Yihong mumbled. "What's the matter?" Yihong let out a breath, then said gravely, "Zishan, I will work hard. When the day comes that I reach your height, I will sleep together with you. If not, hearing that, Zishan laughed tenderly. This idiot. However, I like him being like this, and I'm looking forward to Yihong's growth. All right, I won't force you then, hubby," Zishan said sweetly. Hearing Zishan calling him hubby, Yihong almost screamed out in excitement. "I feel that everything I do is worth it, and I have motivation to do everything." Yihong was filled with confidence. "Hubby, you can be at ease. I will make you feel proud. And I'm looking forward to that day." However, that day was still far away, causing Zishan to regret agreeing to Yihong's request. In the entire team, there were 3 people who were living like widows. The first was Sun Fong. She really couldn't do anything when facing a skeleton. The second was Tang Wei. She kept hinting at Wei Chong, but there was no reaction from Wei Chong. The third was Zishan. She was regretting agreeing to Yihong's request. If there was one more person, they would be able to form a table of mahjong. In the future, they wouldn't need a man anymore. They would just sit together and play mahjong every day. Comparatively speaking, Lai Gu's 3 wives were much happier, and Zhu Tian's 2 maids were both in pain and happiness at the same time. As the boss, Yihua was currently in a cold war. Compared to his subordinates, Yihua's situation had once again verified Qin Yutong's words. Chapter 393. After getting down from Wei Chang's luxurious Qian, Qin Yutong held on to Yihua's arm and said with a smile, "Brother-in-law, you are pretty good as a matchmaker. Why don't you pay attention to your own matters? Sai, let's go to Zhu Tian's place tomorrow to freeload a meal. While we're at it, we can also go and ask how the progress is. It has already been more than a month." Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. "It has already been a month since we last met, and I am indeed starting to miss Zhu Tian a bit." Qin Yutong said tenderly, "Brother-in-law, since you want to go and take a look, why don't you go and take a look at the child?" Hearing his sister-in-law's suggestion, Yihua's eyes lit up. This is indeed a good idea. However, he quickly denied it. If he appeared, wouldn't that mean that he had lost? That wouldn't do. "Not going." "Fine, I've already said this many times, but brother-in-law, you're the one who doesn't listen." The 2 of them walked into the leisure bar. There was actually not a single customer inside. The business was already extremely bad. Yihua said gravely, "There are 4 people who skipped work tonight. Wei Chong, Tang Wei, the Green and Red brothers. 200 from each of you." Qin Yutong was speechless. "You are a supreme overlord, and right now, you are even swindling your little brother's money." On the evening of the second day, Yihua brought along his sister-in-law and arrived at Zijin University. Afterward, Yihua went to look for Zhu Tian. Zhu Tian brought his honor to the teacher's dormitory. Yihua sized up the room, and the room was even smaller than the room that I live in. "Zhu Tian, what are you going to eat tonight?" Yihua asked absent-mindedly. Zhu Tian stood at the side and said respectfully, "Your Honor, instant noodles." Yihua, Qin Yutong, Zhu Tian thought that his honor was worried about his food and drink. Thus he hurriedly said, "Your Honor, there are many different flavors of instant noodles. You can be at ease. Subordinate won't get tired of eating instant noodles." "When did I ask you if you were tired of eating? As the brains of the team, don't you know how to treat a meal?" Yihua said gravely. "Let's find a place to eat first while we talk." "All right, Your Honor, please follow me." As expected of a smart person, his brain worked quite fast. 10 minutes later, Yihua sat on the small stool and looked at the clay pot rice in front of him, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Qin Yutong looked at Zhu Tian. then looked at his bowl of vegetables. He had finally found a subordinate who was even more miserable than his brother-in-law, and it wasn't just an ordinary kind of misery. Zhu Tian was also very embarrassed to actually bring his honor to such a small place for a meal. Zhu Tian hurriedly explained, "Your Honor, Yin Xin recently had a falling out with her family, and all of her funds were cut off. You didn't have much money to begin with, so she has been living frugally. Right now, they're even working at night to earn money." Yihua, Qing Yutong. Yihua felt that it would be better for him not to come and look for absolute heaven in the future. Absolute heaven is just too miserable. I reckon that even treating absolute heaven to a meal would cost him his life. While eating, Yihua felt very helpless. This is what it means to enjoy life. There is bitterness, but it is also rather interesting. "Your Honor, I have a plan in mind," Zhu Tian said. Yihua drank a mouthful of kelp soup. "Speak. There's no point in continuing to investigate like this. Why don't we lure the snake out of its hole?" Yihua placed down his chopsticks and became serious. "Be more detailed. In the past, Dongfang family's influence was too big, and they had gained a lot of benefits when distributing the longevity fruits. This was the reason why the 5 great families had the intention to kill them. If we were to imitate what happened back then, the 5 great families would definitely not be able to sit still. Furthermore, during this period of time, the 5 great families have been fighting with each other, causing some families to complain. This is a good opportunity." After listening to Zhu Tian's plan, Yihua felt that it was feasible. It was a good idea to face the current predicament. "All right, let's do that." Yihua's mood while eating became a bit better, as if he could already see his 2 wives retreating in defeat and returning home obediently. Zhu Tian stretched out his palm and poked Yihua with his thumb and index finger. Yihua's expression turned cold. "What do you mean by this? Are you here to talk about money with me? Don't you know that talking about money is very hurtful to one's feelings?" "Your Honor, I need some startup funds." Yihua paused for a moment. "If it's tens of thousands of RMB, I will just pool them together. If it's more than that, there's no way for me to talk anymore." "How much?" Yihua asked. Zhu Tian had already calculated the amount, and he said in a low voice, 500 billion is more or less enough." Qing Yutong spurted out her food. 500 billion? Brother-in-law doesn't even have 5,000 RMB on him, and even big sister doesn't have 500 billion. You might as well ask brother-in-law to go and rob others. As a supreme overlord, would you go and do such a lowly thing? Yihua looked at Zhu Tian, then immediately lowered his head. "Zhu Tian, you are a smart person, and you even need money to solve such a small matter? I am very disappointed in you. Your Honor, subordinate is wrong." Qing Yutong was very speechless. Brother-in-law is simply as brother-in-law's subordinate. It seems like my life is so bitter. It's good that you are wrong. Is a problem that can be solved with money still a problem? If I let you solve such a problem, wouldn't it be a waste of your talents? I am very optimistic about you. Yihua continued, with an expression of "I am very optimistic about you. However, if you want money, sorry, I don't have a single cent." Zhu Tian was terrified. "Subordinate understands. Subordinate will definitely do my best to solve this problem." "That's more like it. Eat more. This meal is free." Qing Yutong. After finishing eating, Zhu Tian touched his pocket, and his expression changed. "Your Honor, I forgot to bring my wallet." "Check WeChat." Yihua said faintly. "Your Honor, I don't have WeChat yet." Qing Yutong was already crying from laughing while hiding at the side. Brother-in-law came to freeload a meal, and in the end, he was freeloaded by his subordinate. As expected of a smart person, Yihua nearly flipped out, and when Zhu Tian felt his honor's ice-cold gaze, he was so scared that he started trembling. "I really forgot to bring my wallet. I didn't do it on purpose." After checking WeChat, Yihua said coldly, "Yutong, let's go." "Your Honor, take care." Zhu Tian said in a low voice. Looking at his honor leaving, Zhu Tian let out a sigh of relief. "Luckily, I didn't get my salary today." However, after coming to Zijin City, Yihua would naturally bring his sister-in-law to taste the snacks of Zijin City. Inside Ji family's ruins. 5 figures appeared. Of course, they were Crown Prince Zhu Jingqing and his lackey Wu Man. The other 3 men were very strange. Their height was exactly the same. They looked exactly the same. In any case, they looked exactly the same. The triplets were experts that Zhu Jingqing subdued. Originally, Zhu Jingqing wanted to bring more people with him, just in case. However, after thinking about it, I am already an unrivaled existence in this low-level plane, let alone experts like these. I am being too careful. Stepping on the ruins, Zhu Jingqing said mockingly, "This is when a prince hoes 3 big shots? This is how he looks like? What a weakling." Wu Man's mind was still considered to be nimble. Sensing that there was a faint godly might in this place, Wu Ma and reminded, "Your Highness Crown Prince, there is still a godly might remaining in this place." Chapter 394. Crown Prince. For His Highness to be able to make deities release their divine might, he must have met his match. As the Crown Prince's military advisor, Wu Ma and was smart enough to guess this. However, the Crown Prince only knew how to bootlick, or perhaps he only knew how to be greedy. Zhu Jingqing snorted coldly. "That means your skills are inferior. Your Highness, it's possible that the person who killed the Lord's mansion is hiding in this plane." The more Wu Man thought about it, the more scared he became. He wanted to persuade the Crown Prince to leave immediately. Zhu Jingqing glared at Wu Ma and shouted, "Who the hell are you?" Wu Man was so frightened that he immediately knelt down. "Of course, it's His Highness the Crown Prince's men. That's it. This Ho Shuilin was still hiding the Dongwang clan. He has ulterior motives." Zhu Jingqing saw it when he came over to search. He had to admit that he was a little excited when he saw it. The Dongwang clan had been one of the most powerful beings among all the gods. Of course, there was also the Nuwa clan. It would be great if he could subdue the 2 clans this time. "Go. Let's meet the Dongwang clan first." Zhu Jingqing was a little impatient. He had come with the identity of a crown prince, and he could get whatever he wanted. If anyone dared to disobey him, he would kill them. Wu Man reminded in a low voice, "Crown Prince, if there are any awakened ones in the Eastern Emperor clan, we still have to be careful. That Nuwa clan has already awakened." Zhu Jingqing smiled disdainfully. "Wu Man, why are you still acting so cowardly in this low-level world? Your Highness, this subordinate has a bad premonition. How about we go back?" Zhu Jingqing's eyes turned cold. "If you want to go back yourself. Don't appear beside this crown prince in the future." Wu Man had no choice but to follow. Right now, Voidless Realm had already regained its former glory, just that the population of Voidless Realm had to slowly increase. After all, back then, a lot of people had died in that battle. Qinya and Dongwang Baiji were sitting in the courtyard, and they were actually learning how to knit sweaters. It seemed like he was bored out of his mind. "Ali, come over," Qinya called out tenderly. Dongwang Li ran all the way over to Qinya, then consciously opened up her hands and gestured towards Qinya, "Go and play." However, before Dongwang Li could even play with it, Dongwang Baiji shouted out again, "Ali, come here." Dongwang Li felt very helpless. Dongwang Li could only run over to her mother's side and spread out her hands. "All right, go play." Dongwang Li looked at the 2 adults and let out a deep sigh. "I wonder if Daddy is that free." Suddenly, Qinya frowned. "Qinya, what's wrong?" Dongwang Baiji immediately sensed that Qinya was acting strangely. "Someone's coming. It is the same as last time," Qinya said gravely. Dongwang Baiji let out a breath. "Looks like they still came. I'll go and deal with them." I will go with you." Qinya naturally wouldn't let Dongwang Baiji deal with this matter by herself. However, Dongwang Baiji thought that it was those fellows who reported her disrespectful behavior to the higher-ups, and that the higher-ups were here to punish her. Dongwang Baiji looked at Qinya's stomach. "But your stomach is already. It's all right, I am confident." Qinya could feel that the life force of the little fellow in her stomach was very strong. Dongwang Baiji took a deep breath. "All right then. Ali, stay here and don't come out." Dongwang Li naturally knew that something big had happened. After the 2 adults left, Dong Wang Li silently shouted out in her heart, "Uncle Wei! Uncle Wei! Are you there?" Wei Chong, who was far away in Long and City, received Little Sovereign's private message and hurriedly replied, "Little Ollie, what happened? Is Daddy there? There are bad guys coming. They want to bully Mommy." Dong Wang Li choked with sobs. This little fellow sure is good at acting. "Ali, don't cry. Uncle Wei will go and inform your daddy right now. And tell Daddy to hurry over." After ending the call, Dong Wang Li's expression changed. Daddy should be coming over very soon. And then, when he sees Mommy, his feelings of lovesickness will immediately explode, and then he will put Mommy down. And then, Ali can't think anymore. Ali is still a child. At a food street in Zijin City, Yi Hua and his sister-in-law sat on a small stool and bought 20 RMB worth of stinky tofu. After waiting for a long time, the stinky tofu was finally served. "Boss, why is it so little?" Yi Hua shouted out unhappily. "Handsome little pot, this is a small business. I even added another piece for you." Yi Hua said gravely, "How can that do?" "Add another piece. Good things come in pairs." The boss laughed, then said, all right. I will add another piece for you." Qing Yutong smiled bitterly. "So brother-in-law is actually this good at bargaining. I really didn't expect this." Yi Hua picked up a piece of black stinky tofu, stuffed it into his mouth, and chewed on it. The soup completely exploded in his mouth, and that refreshing feeling was incomparable. The outside of the stinky tofu was crispy, and the inside of the stinky tofu was incomparably tender. One word: refreshing. Looking at brother-in-law's infatuated look, Qing Yutong originally didn't want to eat the stinky tofu because the stinky tofu smells bad. Picking up a piece of stinky tofu, Qing Yutong prepared to bite a small piece to try. "Wait a minute," Yi Hua suddenly shouted out. "And?" Qing Yutong asked puzzledly. Yi Hua said faintly, "This stinky tofu needs to be eaten in one bite for it to feel good. If you eat it like this, you won't be able to feel it. But my mouth is only so big, I can't stuff it in." After finished speaking, she opened her cherry lips and showed Yi Hua that her mouth was really only so big, I can't stuff it in. "Let me help you." Yi Hua picked up a piece of stinky tofu. "Make your mouth bigger. That's right. Keep your tongue in, keep your teeth in." After finished speaking, Yi Hua stuffed the stinky tofu into his mouth. "Hold in your mouth first and feel that tender taste. Isn't it a bit strong? Do you want to bite it in one bite? Don't hesitate then." After Yi Hua finished speaking, Qing Yutong chewed on the stinky tofu and closed her beautiful eyes. Brother-in-law is right. Looking at his sister-in-law's satisfied look, Yi Hua nodded his head. "Sharing my happiness with others can also make me happy." Just that. Not long after, Yi Hua regretted, because Qing Yutong began snatching to eat the stinky tofu. "If I didn't share just now, all the stinky tofu would be mine. Sharing would only invite others to snatch it." Looking at brother-in-law's resentful look, Qing Yutong acted coquettishly and consoled him. "Didn't I just eat a few more pieces? Look at how stingy he is." "Your Honor, young Honor, just sent a secret report. The madams are in trouble." Wei Chong hurriedly contacted his honor. Hearing that, Yi Hua's expression sunk. "I got it." Seeing that brother-in-law's expression suddenly changed, Qing Yutong knew that something had happened. "Brother-in-law, what happened?" "Something happened to your big sister." After finished speaking, Qing Yutong disappeared along with Qing Yutong. Arriving at Voidless Realm, Wei Chong quickly rushed over. The three of them were in invisible state and did not reveal themselves. Yi Hua was still very cautious. After all, it was very possible that his daughter had rebelled against him and came to cheat him, her father. However, sensing a few different auras, Yi Hua knew that his daughter wasn't lying. They were indeed in trouble. Chapter 395. Besides, if the deity were to appear now, he would definitely be ridiculed by them. Of course, there was another possibility. He would appear now and save the damsel in distress. Then, he would return with the damsel in distress and repeat the same trick. However, who was Yi Hua? Playing that kind of trick once was enough. If he were to play it again, it would be meaningless. Let's look at the situation first. With Qing Ye's ability, she should be able to defeat Ali. After all, Ali has already learned Deviant Fire. Although it is a weakened version of Deviant Fire, it is still very powerful. It would be fine as long as there were no accidents. However, these 5 people were really bold. I didn't go to look for you, but you came to find trouble with me. Furthermore, you directly went to find my woman. Last time, I already said something. You can't afford to offend my woman. Brother-in-law, are you not planning to make a move? The 3 of them stood at a corner of the palace, and Qing Yutong asked curiously. Yihua said faintly, "Take action? You're thinking too much. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would casually make a move? But they are your wives." Qing Yutong was in disbelief. Is brother-in-law really going to be so ruthless this time? It's good for them to suffer a little. Only then will they know how important the reliability of this sovereign is. Qing Yutong was also speechless. Looking at my wife being bullied, brother-in-law's heart was really big. Of course, Yihua wouldn't allow his wife to be bullied for no reason. When one becomes a tool, one must have the despair of being a tool. Since you all came to look for trouble with me today, then you all must consider that I, the Supreme Overlord, will also go and look for trouble with you all. Wei Chong, who was at the back, hurriedly recorded down his honor's words, so that it would be convenient for him and Tang Bingyao to use. Recently, Tang Bingyao's temper has been very bad, causing her to feel very uncomfortable. In the palace, Dongwang Baiji, who was wearing a purple gown, was sitting on the throne, and below her was Crown Prince Zhu Zhenqing. However, when Zhu Zhenqing saw Dongwang Baiji's appearance, he was completely stupefied. Such a woman doesn't even exist in my father's harem. This is what a truly stunning beauty looks like, a stunning beauty that is capable of starting a war. No wonder Ho Shiulin wanted to raise her. It turned out that he had hidden such a beauty here. He was really lucky to have found her today. Wu Ma knew what the crown prince was thinking. He was definitely thinking of seizing this woman. It had to be said that this woman was perfect. She had an imposing manner and temperament. She was indeed the best candidate to be the princess. At this time, Yuan De and the others stood on both sides, watching the 5 people in the middle with vigilance. "Who are you people?" Dongwang Baiji asked faintly. "How dare you?" Wu Man shouted angrily. As someone from a low-class world, he really didn't have any self-awareness at all. When he saw the crown prince, he still didn't kneel. Yihua was very stingy. This man actually dared to shout my wife. Yihua said to Wei Chong, "Record down this man's name." "Yes, Your Honor." Qing Yutong rolled her eyes at her brother-in-law. "Are you planning to settle the scores after the fall? And you still don't want to let the big sisters know about it?" Zhu Zhenqing immediately stopped his subordinate and said politely, "This one is the crown prince of heaven's sanctum, Zhu Zhenqing." Crown prince. The hall was in an uproar. The person who came last time claimed to be from the Marquis residence, but today, the crown prince actually came. Something big was about to happen. Dongwang Baiji seemed to have also sensed that the arrival of the crown prince was definitely not a good thing. The 3 men standing behind them were emitting out ferocious aura, and they were very hard to deal with. "For what matter did your highness crown prince come here today?" Dongwang Baiji asked. Those 3 people must have gone back to inform on crown prince. However, what Dongwang Baiji did not know was that those 3 people, along with their boss, were all killed in a single night. Zhu Zhenqing revealed out a gentle smile. He looked very comfortable, just like a war man. Yihua said faintly, "Record down this Zhu Zhenqing's name." Qing Yutong clicked her tongue a few times. He is already getting jealous, just like this? No wonder Big Sister said that brother-in-law is the king of jealousy in the cultivation world. Zhu Zhenqing looked at Dongwang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne. "I really want to conquer a woman like this. The process should be very exciting. Shouldn't the Empress grant me a seat?" Zhu Zhenqing said with a slightly teasing tone. Upon thinking that the other party was the crown prince, and that the other party had brought along 3 valiant generals in order to protect Voidless Realm, Dongwang Baiji had no choice but to take a step back. "Men, grant me a seat." However, Zhu Zhenqing directly sat at the center of the throne, facing the Empress. Audacious, Xing Han shouted out angrily. This kind of behavior was a huge disrespect towards the Empress. You are the audacious one, Wu Man shouted out coldly. To actually speak rudely towards a crown prince of a deity. Zhu Zhengqing shouted out gravely. Wu Man, can you not speak? Subordinate obeys. Zhu Zhengqing laughed. Subordinate is truly sorry. Subordinate was lacking in manners. Dongwang Baiji said gravely. It's fine, but, Your Majesty, your subordinate was lacking in manners as well. To shout at a crown prince like me, in my world, he would be sentenced to death. Zhu Zhengqing said faintly. This is a trap. Dongwang Baiji calculated in her heart. The other party is the crown prince of deity realm, and he has a huge army under his control. If I were to be disrespectful towards him, I would be inviting a fatal disaster upon myself. At that time, the entire voidless realm would be implicated as well. When one is under the eaves of another, one has no choice but to lower one's head. I apologize to your Majesty for my subordinate's disrespectful behavior. Dongwang Baiji said helplessly. Yihua said faintly, add this Zhu Zhengqing's descendant as well. Yes. Hearing what Dongwang Baiji said, Zhu Zhengqing suddenly became enlightened. Because this is a good empress who loves her subordinate. With this, I will be able to endlessly threaten her. Your Majesty, you are being too courteous. We are all family. There is no need for you to apologize. Zhu Zhengqing grinned and teased. Yihua said faintly, add his previous generation as well. Yes. Dongwang Baiji naturally understood the meaning behind Yihua's words and said coldly, Your Majesty, please be a bit more respectful. Your Majesty, I have already respected you enough. Don't fail to appreciate my kindness. Zhu Zhengqing's eyes revealed out a trace of brilliance. Just what are you trying to do? Dongwang Baiji, I have been unable to sleep at night recently, and I lack someone to warm my bed. I feel that you are qualified to do so. Zhu Zhengqing's words caused Dongwang Baiji to burn with anger. However, her rationality told her that she mustn't get angry, because if she were to get angry, the entire voidless realm would be buried together with her. Yihua said coldly, remember all 18 generations of this Zhu Zhengqing's ancestors. Yes. Qing Yutong wanted to observe a moment of silence for this crown prince who is currently acting cool. Your entire family is already on brother-in-law's death list. They're going to be finished. Dongwang Baiji said gravely. Your Majesty sure knows how to joke. Your Majesty is smart and quick-witted. You naturally know whether I am joking or not. Since you are so hesitant, I will give you a bit of motivation. Zhu Zhengqing waved his hand. One of the triplets could be seen suddenly disappearing. When the triplet reappeared, the triplet had already grabbed onto Xing Han's neck and raised him up high. Don't! Dongwang Baiji suddenly stood up. Chapter 396. However, Qingya, who was hiding at the back, was a bit faster. Stretching out her slender finger, a green light shot out and forced the first brother to let go of Xing Han. And when Qingya walked out from the back, Zhu Zhengqing's face was filled with greed. However, this greedy expression was seen by Yihua, and Yihua said gravely, Wei Chong, write them down for me. Yes. Qing Yutong lightly sighed. Why is there need to do this? Wouldn't it be better to just directly rush over and exterminate them? Long hair, short experience. If I were to rush over and get killed right now, what kind of effect would that have? Would Qingya and Dongwang Baiji be moved? Of course not. At that time, there was a possibility that they might even talk about it. Yihua, why are you so impulsive? This is the Crown Prince, Right now, Yihua wasn't being impulsive anymore. Right now, I want to teach my wives a lesson. After I am done, I will go and teach this Crown Prince a lesson. I want to let this Crown Prince know that acting cool in front of me is the same as acting cool. Looking at Qingya, who was leisurely walking over, Zhu Zhengqing revealed a stupefied look. This woman is beautiful. They were so beautiful that they couldn't even be found in the entire heaven sanctum. These two women were simply the best of the best. If he could be brought into the palace, why would he need to be an emperor? He could even be a subject under the skirt of others. Suddenly, when Zhu Jinqing saw Qin Ye's slightly bulging lower abdomen, his face stiffened, following which his face started to turn sinister, and the veins on his forehead started to bulge. He couldn't even get his first time with such a woman. This was a huge insult and mockery to him. Which damn man is it? This prince will cut that man into 13 pieces. Whose child is this? Zhu Zhongqing lost his patience. He stood up and asked, releasing a divine might that made others submit. Qin Ye looked at the man below and said indifferently, "What does it have to do with you? Of course it's related to me. This prince has taken a fancy to the two of you." Zhu Jingqing wildly laughed. He wished he could capture them right now and torture them. Qin Ye and Dongwang Baiji laughed lightly. The two women were thinking of the same thing. If Yihua was here and heard this man's arrogant words, how would he react? That kind of reaction would be explosive, and this crown prince would deeply regret his choice of words. Qin Ye smiled sweetly. This caused Zhu Jingqing to be stupefied. Dongwang Baiji gave off a cold and arrogant aura, while this woman gave off a gentle and gentle aura. Comfortable. If that's the case, I'm really sorry. We already have a man, Qin Ye said indifferently. Dongwang Baiji added, "Furthermore, it's the same person." Yihua felt that it was time for him to make an appearance, and he even had to make an appearance in a dazzling manner. Yihua shouted out, "That is me. You bunch of salted fishes actually dared to spy on my lovely wife." However, he still endured it. Acting cool was a moment of pleasure, but what about the latter part of the sentence? When Zhu Zhongqing heard this answer, he instantly lost his composure. Who? In this world, apart from me, no one else can have beauties like you. Impossible. Dongwang Baiji stood up, and when the two women stood together, they immediately looked extremely beautiful. Even Wu Ma and was dazed. Dongwang Baiji was too beautiful. There was actually such a woman in such a lowly world. No wonder the Marquis wanted to keep it a secret. He probably wanted to enjoy it for himself. Of course there is. Furthermore, in his eyes, you are nothing. Dongwang Baiji said coldly. With Yihua supporting her, Dongwang Baiji was very confident. Although they were currently in a cold war, Dongwang Baiji knew that if something were to happen, Yihua would definitely not sit by and do nothing. Qin Ye added on indifferently. At most, he can be considered as a dried, salted fish. Yihua, who was standing at the side, laughed lightly. These two women acting cool together is rather interesting. However, this is good as well. When facing a strong opponent, the two of you will think of me. Audacious. You actually dare to insult His Highness the Crown Prince, and even said that His Highness the Crown Prince is a salted fish. Wu Man took a step forward, pointed his finger at the two women, and shouted out. The veins on Zhu Zhongqing's forehead bulged out, and because he was angry, his face became red. Ask him to come out, and let me have a look at him then. Dongwang Baiji suddenly laughed, then said, "Do you think that my husband is someone that you can meet whenever you want to?" The corner of Qin Ye's mouth revealed out a clever arc as she said proudly, "My husband is 8 feet tall. He has a very graceful bearing. He is solemn, frank, and clear. He has the bearing of a dragon and a phoenix. His face is like the moon of mid-autumn. His complexion is like the flowers of the dawn of spring. His hair is like a knife. His eyebrows are like a painting. His eyes are like autumn waves. And although he is angry, he would sometimes smile, and his gaze is filled with both anger and affection." Following Qin Ye's words, the entire place quietened down. Yihua, who was hiding at the side, rubbed onto his chin. I didn't expect that all of my good points would be pointed out by Qin Ye. Seems like Qin Ye's eyesight is rather good. Bonus points. Bonus points for all of my good points. Why didn't I say it earlier? Wei Chong took out a small notebook and noted down everything that His Honor said. What your wife said made His Honor very happy. Qin Yutong seemed to have a very cold look on her face as she hugged her arms. Big sister's words are simply praising brother-in-law to the sky. Look at brother-in-law's proud look. Dongwang Baiji was also astonished. The first sentence that Dongwang Baiji spoke was already off the mark. Is Yihua 8 feet long? It should be described with inches, right? Could it be that the two of us are not using the same thing? Zhu Zhongqing and the others were stupefied. She actually asked me where my face came from. Young lady, do you even have any face left? And she even said that I have a disgusting face. You, not bad. Do you think that just because I like you, you could be arrogant and despotic? Dongwang Baiji said in disdain. Your Highness, please take back your liking. You are making me want to vomit. Baiji, don't hurt your body. If not, our man will feel heartache. Zhu Zhongqing couldn't take it anymore and shouted out angrily, Fine. Today, I'm going to capture you two and exterminate your voidless realm. I'm going to let you two know that my dignity is not to be humiliated. The two women's beautiful pupils tensed up. They had already made their preparations for battle. Today, either they die or I die. Voidless realm, listen to my command, kill all of them. Dongwang Baiji shouted out. Zhu Zhongqing sneered. Voidless realm, offend your superiors, kill all of them. Yihua looked at the development of the situation silently. His gaze was deep, but he didn't have the intention to take action. Brother-in-law, are we still watching? Qing Yutong was puzzled. If we were to rush out right now, the effect would be very good, and the misunderstanding would also disappear. Yihua let out a light sigh. They still have a lot of things to learn. Sometimes, failure is also a good thing, as they are able to clearly see their own inadequacies. What your honor said is very true. Langya's beauty is unparalleled in this world. Wei Chong hurriedly flattered, causing Qing Yutong to feel so cold that she wanted to hug her brother-in-law's body tightly. Yihua was at ease with Qingya's strength. After all, Qingya, who had awakened her bloodline, was stronger than Dongwang Baiji. Thinking up to here, Yihua felt that he had to increase Dongwang Baiji's strength. If not, when he is outside, he would have to worry about their safety. Chapter 397. Qingyu was able to fight against the triplets by herself and was still not defeated. This made Zhu Zhongqing and Wu Man feel very surprised. I didn't expect that the Niwa clan would be so powerful. While Dongwang Baiji was only able to pin down Zhu Zhongqing, this gave Wu Man a chance to show off his skills. Wu Man immediately rushed into Voidless Realm and started killing. Kill them all. Kill everyone here. Zhu Zhongqing, who was fighting against Dongwang Baiji, shouted out loudly. As you wish. After speaking, Wu Man slashed toward a child. At this moment, Qingya and Dongwang Baiji turned pale with fright. Ali. It was indeed Dongwang Li. When she heard the sounds of fighting, she came over to help. Daddy is probably stuck in a traffic jam. Seeing that Ali was about to get injured, Qing Yutong hurriedly shook Yihua's arm. Brother-in-law, Ali, quickly go, quickly go. Don't mess around. Ali is stronger than you. Yihua pinched onto his sister-in-law's face. He was very assured towards his daughter. Not to mention, my daughter is the strongest mini-boss here. Dongwang Li raised her head and looked towards Wu Man. Her baby fat face was blown by the astral wind that Wu Man emitted. This bad uncle is truly shameless to actually bully a child. Ali, quickly dodge. Dongwang Baiji shouted out loudly. If mommy wants Ali to dodge, then Ali will just dodge. Boom! Smoke filled the air, and small stones flew all over the place. Qingya and Dongwang Baiji stopped what they were doing and looked at the scene in a daze. Zhu Zhongqing has a sinister smile on his face. As for that Wu Ma, and it seems like he has done something very awesome, he appeared very savage. However, when the smoke dispersed, Wu Man saw a small figure appear. It's her. She actually stood on top of my sword. How is this possible? Zhu Zhongqing was also stupefied. This can't be an old demon, right? Qingya and Dongwang Baiji let out a breath of relief. That scene just now nearly scared their souls away. Qing Yutong patted on her towering chest. Fortunately, she is fine. Wei Chong revealed a light smile. Since his honor is already so young, he will definitely become an overlord when he grows up. What is there to worry about with these women? Ali possesses my bloodline, and from the day she was born, she is already destined to be extraordinary. You? Who are you? Wu Ma, Anne's eyes opened wide, and he looked as if he had just seen a ghost. His strength was indeed a little weak, but in this low-level world, he was still an invincible existence. Today, however, he was played by a child. Ollie isn't going to tell you. Dong Wangli pouted her small mouth, looking very tsundere. The more Wu Man thought about it, the angrier he became. He had lost face in front of the crown prince, and it was all because of this child. I'll kill you. 5 consecutive 6 slashes. Wu Man raised his hand, and a terrifying spiritual energy burst out. Tens of thousands of sword shadows attacked the small figure with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. Instantly, the sword chi crisscrossed, causing everyone to exclaim in admiration. Was this the might of a deity? The huge consumption caused Wu Ma's breathing to become ragged. This little brat should be dead. However, not far away, Zhu Zhongqin was dumbfounded. This was impossible. Dong Wangli could be seen standing on Wu Ma's shoulder with her hands crossed behind her back. Dong Wangli had a very profound look on her face. Looking at his daughter's appearance, Yihua laughed lightly. Qinya and Dong Wang Baiji let out a sigh of relief. However, just who did she learn this expression from? If not for the fact that Dong Wangli was still very young right now, her face would definitely be even more shocking. However, right now, Dong Wangli's appearance was very cool. Wu Man's entire body shivered as he slowly turned his head around. Bad uncle, you are so weak. Dong Wangli laughed. I was called weak by a child. I am the son of a general. I am the favorite of His Highness the Crown Prince. Yet today in this low-level world, I was called weak by a child. I am definitely unable to endure this. Wu Man, whose face was completely red, began swelling up. This wasn't the swelling of his mentality, this was the swelling of his body. Dong Wangli lightly leaped onto the ground, then asked curiously, Are you Hulk? Green is impossible, but red is very red. Wu Man's small and weak body actually swelled up to 3 meters tall, and the muscles on his entire body became as tough as stone. Those thick and solid blood vessels on his body seemed to be filled with power. Roar, roar, roar! Wu Man patted on his chest, then raised his gigantic fist and punched towards Dong Wangli. This punch of his was just like the power of a mountain. Blood surged, and it seemed as if no matter how hard steel was, it would still turn into powder under this punch. Go and die. White spiritual energy gushed out from Wu Ma's body like spring water, and the sound of wind being torn apart could be heard. Dong Wangli pursed her lips, then stretched out her palm. Bang! Wu Man's gigantic fist smashed onto Dong Wangli's small and fleshy palm, and a shockwave was actually created that spread towards the surroundings. Wu Man's feet even sank deep into the ground. After the smoke dispersed, Wu Man's tall and sturdy body was actually looking at Dong Wangli in a daze. What kind of monster are you? Wu Man asked stupidly. Ali is not a monster. Ali is daddy and mommy's good daughter. You are the monster. Dong Wangli said angrily. While puffing out her cheeks, Dong Wangli seemed to be saying, If you still want to scold me, then I won't be polite anymore. Wu Man raised his head and roared, then shouted out angrily, I am a deity. You lowly and despicable low-level races actually dare to insult me. I'm going to use my fist to crush you all. I also want to... Before Wu Man could finish his words, Dong Wangli's small hand could be seen grabbing onto Wu Man's thumb, then swung her small arm. Wu Man, who is 3 meters tall and weighed at least a few hundred kilograms, was actually swung high into the air, then fiercely smashed onto the ground. This was not the end. Dong Wangli swung left and right, and Wu Man was just like a doll that was being swung around by Dong Wangli's petite body. Bang, 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 bang. Everyone was stupefied as they looked at Dong Wangli foolishly. In the end, Dong Wangli ruthlessly smashed onto the ground, then snorted, What a weak deity. Right now, Wu Man had already fainted for being smashed. It was fortunate that he didn't hear what Dong Wangli said. If not, he would definitely have fainted from anger. After jumping over Wu Man's body, Dong Wangli placed her hands on her waist and looked at Zhu Zhengqing and the others. You bad guys are already surrounded by Ali. Be tactful and raise your hands to surrender. If not, Ali is going to get angry. Ali has watched too many police and bandit movies. After all, our entire family are bandits, not police. Qing Yutong's beautiful face became soft. I really want to hug Ali. She is so cute. Little Sovereign is very courageous. Wei Chong gave the highest evaluation of Ali. Zhu Zhengqing was already suppressed by Ali, and right now, he was also a bit flustered. Capture this child for me. Yes, your Highness Crown Prince. The triplets immediately pounced toward Dong Wangli like hungry wolves. As long as they were able to capture Dong Wangli, they would definitely tear her apart. However, who was Dong Wangli? She was the first child of a supreme overlord. Chapter 398. Oh, can't catch me, can't catch me. Dong Wangli made a funny face, then jumped away from Dong Wangli. A lump of golden flame appeared on Dong Wangli's finger, and without even thinking, Dong Wangli threw out the lump of golden flame. A small ball of golden flames drew an arc in the air. It was very beautiful, but also very terrifying. Puff! When the flames landed at the feet of the triplets, they instantly burst into flames. It was as if gasoline had found sparks and wanted to burn everything. The triplets were instantly buried in the sea of fire. They didn't even have a chance to scream before they turned into golden liquid that flowed on the ground. However, the fire could not be controlled at all. It rushed towards His Highness. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Once this sunfall heavenly fire comes into contact with an object, it would burn everything. Don't look at how Dong Wangli had only thrown out a small amount of sunfall heavenly fire. It was more than enough to burn the entire voidless realm. Dong Wangli was stupefied. It was clearly just a small fire. How did it become so big? He even burned Mama's palace. Dong Wangli didn't know what to do, immediately burst into tears, because her mommy will definitely scold her. Facing such a huge fire, no one was able to do anything. Dong Wangbaiji couldn't be bothered with the crown prince anymore. She hurriedly carried her daughter into her embrace and left, then ordered everyone to leave. Zhu Zhengqing took this opportunity to escape. Just you wait. Wait for me to summon 1,000,000 soldiers. Now you know what pain is. Right now, everyone in Voidless Realm was looking at the tallest mountain, and the tallest mountain had already turned into a huge fireball. As the Empress Palace, it was the most luxurious and symbolic place. Today, it was actually burned down by the Empress daughter. Everyone was heartbroken, but there was nothing they could do. Dong Wangli was already tired of crying, and while lying on her mother's bosom, she fell asleep. Dong Wangbaiji wanted to scold her, but she didn't know how to do it. Her daughter had resolved the crisis, but she had accidentally burned down the entire palace. It's all Yi Hua's fault. Seems like right now, Yi Hua has to take the blame for everything. This is truly too miserable. In actuality, Yi Hua was powerless to do anything. The might of the deviant flames was unimaginable, especially the sunfall heavenly flame, which couldn't be extinguished no matter what. Qinya let out a deep sigh. I have already told you, you can't teach a child to be too formidable. Yi Hua just won't listen. How long is this fire going to burn? Dong Wangbaiji mumbled. Suddenly, a very obvious small fireball fell from the fireball and landed on a mountain below. Qinya and Dong Wangbaiji's faces stiffened. Sure enough, the mountain peak was instantly set ablaze, and Dong Wangbaiji immediately dispersed the crowd. In the end, Voidless Realm had no choice but to gather the people from Voidless Realm and push the two mountains far away. Only then was Voidless Realm able to escape from this calamity. The main culprit, Dong Wangli, was currently pretending to be asleep, fearing that she would be scolded by her mother. Voidless Realm, which was missing two mountains, looked very awkward, especially with the disappearance of the King Peak, which was the topmost mountain. Voidless Realm looked just like a bald lady. Yihua expressed that there was nothing he could do about it. Although my main body is heaven-defying, there's still some things that cannot be changed. Fortunately, Voidless Realm was not a single entity. If Voidless Realm was a single entity, Voidless Realm would have definitely been burned to the ground. This was also the reason why Yihua often said that it was actually very easy to burn down the entire world. Now, even little Ali could do it. All right, I just want to see Voidless Realm get burned down. If that's the case, we will have no place to return to, and we can only return to Voidless Realm. However, after this incident, I reckon that Dongwang Li wouldn't use Sunfall Heavenly Fire anymore. It was a pity that Wu Ma and the military advisor was knocked unconscious after only appearing for a few times. When Zhu Zhengxing left, he didn't even care about Wu Ma and ended up being burned to death. As for the triplets, they all died mysteriously. I reckon that they didn't even have the feeling of death. Seeing that the three of them were fine, Yihua, who was standing in the air, felt relieved. He didn't have any intention of meeting with them, and thus, he left with Wei Chong and his sister-in-law. Because there are more important things that I have to do, it doesn't seem appropriate for this crown prince to leave just like that, right? Seems like I have to bring my subordinates out for a walk and not force them too much, especially Zizi, who has a bitter expression on her face all day long. Returning back to Leisure Bar, Yihua sent his sister-in-law away and prepared to have a good talk with Yizizi. Yihua pushed open the door of the bar, and Yizizi's petite back could be seen sitting in front of the desk. Her two ponytails were swaying back and forth behind her head, and it was clear that she was trying to seduce people. "What are you doing?" Yihua walked over and asked faintly. Yizizi said, "Teacher's assignment." Yihua took a look at Yizizi and saw that she was copying a text, just that the handwriting is not something that an ordinary person would be able to recognize. Pulling out a small stool, Yihua sat at the side and asked lightly, "What's wrong? Are you unhappy?" Yizizi pursed her lips and said with grievance, "Zizi doesn't dare to be unhappy. Then, I will register you for a cram school." Yizizi could be seen directly pouncing into Yihua's embrace and acting cute. Ugh, Your Honor, I feel like vomiting. It's so stifling." Yihua patted onto Yizizi's forehead. "The reason why I came over this time is to help you reduce the pressure." Yizizi's beautiful eyes lit up, and she immediately sat properly like a good student and vowed solemnly, "Your Honor, as long as you help me reduce the pressure, I promise that I will study properly and improve every day." Rubbing onto Yizizi's head, Yihua said eerily, "You will enjoy this time of reducing the pressure." The corner of Yizizi's mouth arced upwards. Her pair of big scarlet eyes were flickering with bloodlust, and her bright red tongue was licking the corner of her mouth, seemingly unable to wait any longer. Zhu Zhengxing, who was forced to return to Heaven's Mansion, was currently in a violent rage. "Today, I lost 4 of my generals. The most important thing is that Wu Ma died." Wu Ma family had been guarding the borders of Heaven's Mansion for generations, defending against the ferocious beasts of Heaven's Mansion in exchange for 1,000 years of peace. And this Wu Ma was the youngest son that the general doted on. If I were to tell him about this unfortunate news, Father Emperor would definitely blame me. Furthermore, in order to appease Wu Ma family, the punishment will be very heavy. This is not a situation that Zhu Zhengxing wanted to see. Bang, bang, bang. Countless spirit porcelains were smashed into pieces by Zhu Zhengxing. This kind of low-level world actually has such a child. That's right. This child called Dongwang Baiji Mother. Could it be that this child awakened East Emperor's bloodline? If so, everything will make sense. This East Emperor's bloodline is indeed terrifying. No wonder Ho Shiulin wanted to take it for himself. That's right. Since no one knows about Wu Mayan's death, I might as well push the blame onto the person who destroyed Ho Wang Mansion. Your Highness the Crown Prince. A dignified-looking woman could be seen walking over and shouting out with a sweet voice. When Zhu Zhengxing, who was in a violent rage, saw this concubine, he immediately thought of those 2 women and grabbed onto the concubine's wrist. Your Highness the Crown Prince, it hurts, Zhu Zhengxing shouted out towards the maids. All of you scram out. After all of the maids left the room, Zhu Zhengqing directly pressed the concubine onto the table and vented out the resentment in his heart. Zhu Zhengqing even swore that sooner or later he will definitely kill those two women. After venting out his resentment, Zhu Zhengqing felt much better and rewarded the concubine. Chapter 399. Zhu Zhengqing was puzzled. Now that Wu Man was gone, he had lost a powerful foil. All right, allow me to undress. After changing into a new robe, Zhu Zhengqing walked into the hall uneasily and saw the person he didn't want to see the most. Wu Ma Chao, Che Hongliang, and Celestial Master Ingwei were there as well. They seemed to be discussing something. Wu Ma Chao wasn't as handsome as his youngest son, Wu Man. His fierce face showed the traces of time. Even when meeting the emperor, he wore armor. If Wu Ma Chao knew that his youngest son had been killed by the crown prince, he would probably kill the crown prince. Why did General Wu Ma suddenly rush back? Zhu Chengxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked curiously. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, I received a secret report from the Celestial Master and immediately rushed back." Wu Ma Chao's voice was loud and clear. Zhu Chengxian was unhappy. The Celestial Master was making a big deal out of nothing. Celestial Master, General Wu Ma, is guarding the border. How can we let him come back so suddenly? The Celestial Master was terrified. Your Majesty, this is a special time. With General Wu Ma here, the royal hunt will be safer. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and shouted, "Don't worry, Your Majesty. I will do my best to protect Your Majesty. Then I will have to trouble General Wu Ma." Zhu Chengxian was helpless. A trace of annoyance flashed between his brows. "Crown Prince, the royal hunt is in 3 days. Finish this quickly," Zhu Chengxian said to his son. This was also a chance for his son to perform for the royal family. Zhu Zhengqing cupped his hands and said, "Your son understands." Zhu Chengxian nodded and scanned the crowd. "I don't want to hear anyone else talk about this bloody light. Anyone who disobeys will be executed." The four knelt together. "Your Majesty is wise. You may all leave." The four bowed and left the hall. Zhu Zhengqing quickened his pace. He didn't want to talk to Wu Ma Chao in case the latter saw through him. However, this action made Wu Ma Chao feel like something was wrong. In the past, this crown prince was trying to curry favor with him, but now he was leaving so quickly. "Your Highness," Wu Ma Chao called with a smile. Zhu Zhengqing stopped his tracks and cursed under his breath. However, he still turned around and smiled. "General Wu Ma, why is my son not accompanying the crown prince?" Wu Ma Chao asked curiously. "Oh, I didn't see it today either." Zhu Zhengqing smiled. "You won't be able to find this corpse in your entire life." Wu Ma Chao smiled. "That's strange. He's not home either. Maybe I'll go to a girl's house and stay the night." Zhu Zhengqing's words made Wu Ma Chao believe him. Being romantic was their motto. This general will not disturb the crown prince any further. I hope the crown prince will guide my son. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands in greeting. Zhu Zhengqing laughed heartily. "Well said, well said." Seeing Wu Ma Chao leave, Zhu Zhengqing heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, today was a secret mission, and no one knew. "Your Highness the Crown Prince." Che Hongliang suddenly walked out from his side, a pair of small eyes revealing shrewdness. Zhu Zhengqing was startled, but he squeezed out a smile. "Sir Che." Che Hongliang chuckled. "Today, Your Highness the Crown Prince brought the general's son and a few subordinates out. I'm sure your luck with women is not shallow." Zhu Zhengqing really wanted to chop this bastard in front of him into pieces. He actually sent people to spy on me. Furthermore, he also found out about today's matter. What should I do? Seeing that the crown prince did not speak, Che Hongliang said indifferently, "Just now, Your Highness the Crown Prince and the general said that you don't know Wu Ma and's whereabouts. This is a bit. Sir Che must have remembered wrongly." Zhu Zhengqing gradually stopped smiling. At this moment, he could not even smile anymore. "Then, if the general knows that the crown prince lied, I'm afraid that the matter will be reported to His Majesty." Che Hongliang. Just what are you trying to do? Zhu Jingqing lowered his voice and shouted. Relying on the support of the Empress, the Crown Prince actually dared to speak rudely to me. Che Hongliang did not expect the Crown Prince to have such a big reaction. At the start, I was only probing, but from the looks of it now, something must have happened. Otherwise, the Crown Prince would not be this nervous. Could it be that Wu Ma and has already? Your Highness the Crown Prince is very busy. I'm just afraid that Your Highness the Crown Prince is too busy. Don't you just want a plane? I'll give you one and seal your mouth. So it's this matter. Sir Che, you can be at ease. After the imperial hunt is over, I will report this matter to my father. This was precisely what Che Hongliang wanted to hear. Thank you, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Take care, Sir Che. Looking at Che Hongliang leaving, Zhu Zhengqing wished that he could take out his sword and stab Che Hongliang in the back. To actually dare to trick even me. Just now, it would have been great if I had brought the unconscious Wu Man along with me. If not, why would I be threatened by Che Hongliang now? Right now, the most important matter is to properly handle the imperial hunt. After the imperial hunt is over, I will think of a way to get the Dongwang bloodline, Nuo bloodline, and those two women. This matter cannot be spoken out, even if I am beaten to death. After all, this matter is more important than the throne. 3 days passed by very quickly. Because it was the imperial hunt, the people in the city were celebrating as if it was a festival. To them, the imperial hunt was a big day. The more the imperial hunt was, the more glorious the imperial family was, and the more peaceful the Heaven's Mansion was. Of course, the hunt was also a chance for the princes to perform. Although the Crown Prince had already been decided, it was still possible to remove him from his position. The princes all wanted to drag the Crown Prince down from his pedestal. There were more than 2,000 members of the imperial family in total. Including the generals and guards, there were more than 10,000 people. Zhu Jingqing was the person in charge of this hunt, and he was in charge of everything. Just as Zhu Zhengqing was busy, Wu Ma Chao walked over in his armor. He was in charge of safety this time. Your Highness, have you seen my son these past few days? Wu Ma Chao asked in a low voice. His eyes were filled with displeasure. Zhu Zhengqing felt Wu Ma Chao's questioning and immediately greeted him with a smile. General Wu Ma, the Crown Prince has been busy making arrangements for the hunt these past few days. He has been so busy that he has not seen young master, and that is strange. Once this hunt is over, I hope that Your Highness will give me an answer. This was Wu Ma Chao's final message. His son's sudden disappearance was definitely not normal. It must have something to do with the Crown Prince. Zhu Zhengqing hurriedly comforted him. Do not worry, General Wu Ma. Once the hunt is over, this Crown Prince will immediately go find young master, and perhaps he is infatuated with someone's daughter. Then I hope that Your Highness will remember your words. Wu Ma Chao was not so easy to trick. He, the father, had returned, but his son had to come and see him. Which family's daughter could be kept? Seeing Wu Ma Chao leave, Zhu Zhengqing let out a sigh of relief. His heart was heavy. Chapter 400. Drums thundered through the air, carrying with them a sense of majesty and solemnity. It also symbolized that the royal family was out on patrol, and everyone had to kneel to welcome them. As the procession walked out of the palace, everyone on the road to the city gates knelt down to welcome them. This was the royal family of Heaven's Sanctum. Everyone had to submit to them. After walking out of the southern city gates, the procession gradually rose into the sky and rushed towards the hunting grounds. The majestic procession walked in the sky. When they passed by the city, the people below looked up at the royal family and then knelt down to offer their sincere blessings. The hunting was a traditional festival of the royal family. For safety and the dignity of the royal family, some spirit beasts were specially reared for the royal family to hunt, or if someone injured the spirit beasts first, then the princes would hunt them. In short, the royal hunt was a deep set of traps. Changlin was the royal hunting grounds. Zhu Zhengqing had built a temporary courtyard, and opposite the courtyard was a forest. When the people of the royal family arrived, the forest was filled with the melodious chirping of birds. Thousands of birds flew into the sky. Your Majesty is blessed. Even these birds are cheering for your Majesty's arrival. Che Hongliang couldn't help but flatter. Che Mainyang was the current empress and Che Hongliang's older sister. In such an occasion, she would definitely stand by the emperor's side. Receiving the protection of your Majesty, even these birds are singing your praises. It's a good sign. Che Mainyang laughed softly. Behind her was a group of beautiful concubines, all of whom only wanted to receive the emperor's favor. And among these concubines, there were many virgins that even the emperor had forgotten to touch. Hearing these compliments, Zhu Chengxian revealed a faint smile. With this emperor here, the country will naturally prosper and the people will be at peace. Following Zhu Chengshuan's words, everyone knelt down and shouted, "God bless your Majesty! God bless heaven's sanctum!" Zhu Chengxian smiled and waved his hand. The people began to set up camp, while the people of the royal family and the others entered the courtyard to rest. Walking into the courtyard, Zhu Chengxian smiled. "Crown Prince, you did well. Thank you for the praise, Father." In the past, they had to set up tents for the hunt, but this time, Zhu Zhengqing had built a temporary courtyard in 3 days. Hearing the emperor praise the crown prince, Che Mainyang and Che Hongliang were very unhappy. "Your Majesty, if you let Yin do it, I believe she will do it well," Che Mainyang said in a low voice. Zhu Yin bowed and stood to the side. In a low voice, he said, "Your Highness the Crown Prince's intelligence surpasses others. Your son is inferior." Zhu Chengxian didn't say anything, but Che Mainyang glared at her son. Zhu Yin actually didn't like it. Father Emperor valued Zhu Zhenqing very much now. Now that Zhu Yun was comparing himself to him, wouldn't that make Father Emperor feel disgusted? This Zhu Yun was a smart person and had some ability. Che Hongliang also valued him a lot, but his sister was too impatient, causing Zhu Yun's image to be bad in front of his Majesty. "Royal brother, you must be joking. If you were to handle this matter, you would definitely surpass me." "Crown Prince, you are too kind." The two of them complimented each other and were equally matched. As for the princes who were following behind, they watched the development of the situation. Right now, the crown prince obviously had the upper hand, but Zhu Yun had the support of the empress and Che Hongliang. His strength could not be underestimated. In addition, Marquis Wang Ye's entire family was suddenly wiped out. The situation suddenly became complicated and confusing. As the emperor, Zhu Chengxian came here to relax and watch the performance of the princes. Of course, he also had to pamper the imperial concubines. After all, this was also a chance for them. Although they couldn't enjoy the rain and dew, at least they could break as many as they could. At least they wouldn't die with their bodies intact. The hunt officially begins. Princes, go and prepare. Following Emperor Zhu Qingxuan's order, hundreds of princes began to prepare to enter the field. As for the wives of these princes, they also began to worry. Although the spirit beasts in Changlin were of low level, accidents might happen. One had to know. Every time there was a hunt, someone would die. Perhaps these women didn't know that they weren't killed by the spirit beasts, but by their half-brothers. The royal family was just that cruel. As the emperor, he saw all of this, but didn't stop it. If the world wasn't won through fighting, would it still be called the world? Princes died one after another, and young princes were born continuously. The gods who had a long life didn't worry about the future generations. Zhu Zhengqing was the crown prince and the leader of the entire faction. Although he had lost a powerful helper like Wu Ma, and these younger brothers still had a lot of power, it seemed like he had to think about it carefully. "Crown Prince, why don't we have a competition?" Zhu Yun, who was riding on by Rome, said to Zhu Zhengqing with a smile. Dozens of princes followed behind him. Zhu Zhengqing also had many princes. "Royal brother, you said the same thing last year, right?" Zhu Zhengqing said indifferently. He didn't even look at Zhu Yun, and his words were full of sarcasm. "Crown Prince, you are right. However, I have practiced for a year, and I hope to catch up to you." Zhu Zhengqing chuckled and said, "Royal brother, Even if you practice for another 100 years, you still won't be able to catch up to me. Jia. After saying this, Zhu Zhengqing led the princes of one faction into Chonglin. Dust instantly flew up. Zhu Yun's eyes gleamed coldly as he shouted, Jia. After the princes of the two factions left, there were dozens of princes left. They didn't want to fight and wanted to be free. Therefore, they entered Chonglin unhurriedly and hunted some small animals in the periphery before going back to report. After Zhu Zhengqing rushed into Chonglin, he didn't go inside. Instead, he circled around the periphery before he stopped. Crown Prince, I'm afraid that Zhu Yun is going to kill you. This person was called Zhu Di. Apart from Wu Ma, and he was the only person that Zhu Zhengqing trusted. Zhu Zhengqing sneered. After so many years of killing, has he ever succeeded? Your Highness, you should be careful. Zhu Di warned. It was better to be safe than sorry. Underestimating the enemy was a taboo in the military. However, Zhu Zhengqing seemed to have forgotten the lesson from 3 days ago. Brothers, let's warm up in the outer perimeter first. Then, follow me in to kill the strongest spirit beasts. Let the Emperor Father witness our teamwork. Zhu Zhengqing exuded the might of the Crown Prince and shouted at the people behind him to boost their morale. Yes, Your Highness. On the other side, Zhu Yun led his people to circle around the periphery before he stopped. This time, they must kill the Crown Prince. Of course, they couldn't kill him openly. They had to pretend that they were killed by the spiritual beasts. Royal brother, we must win this time. A handsome man rode out on a spiritual horse. His name was Zhu Zhu, and he was Zhu Yun's right-hand man. Zhu Yun said in a deep voice, It's either we succeed or we die. It's time to change the Crown Prince. Royal brother, you're right. Zhu Zhengqing is a playboy. I don't know what Father sees in him. Even if he sees something, he will unfortunately die under the spiritual beast cudgels today. Zhu Yun revealed a murderous look as if he had killed his father. After saying that, Zhu Yun led his people into the depths of Chonglin. It seemed like he wanted to set up an ambush first. There were only some ordinary spirit beasts in the periphery. They were like rabbits or deer, and they weren't aggressive at all. However, as they went deeper, the spiritual beasts became more lethal. However, the strongest spiritual beasts here were only high-level spiritual beasts. Just like ordinary people and tigers and lions, there wouldn't be any dinosaur-level spiritual beasts. Therefore, the spiritual beasts weren't much of a threat to the princes. After all, the weapons in their hands were ancient godly items. As for ancient godly items, they were very rare. Chapter 4:01. As Zhu Yun ventured deeper into the forest, the air was filled with a sense of fear. This caused everyone to feel strange. Brother, why do I feel that something is wrong? Zhu Zhu frowned and looked around. Why didn't he feel this way in the past? It was as if a strange aura was pressing down on his back, making it hard for him to breathe. Zhu Yun also noticed that something was amiss and stopped his horse. His instincts told him that he couldn't go any deeper. Could there be a high-level ancient beast? Zhu Yun muttered, That's possible. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, a series of stomping sounds rang out, causing the ground to tremble. The prince's horses were startled, but they quickly calmed down. After all, their mounts were not ordinary war horses. The tremors on the ground were getting stronger and stronger, indicating that they were getting closer. Zhu Yun felt his entire body trembling. Roar! An angry roar broke the tranquility of the forest. Under the roar, the spiritual energy fluctuations spread out in all directions. Everyone immediately put up their defenses. Zhu Zhu was in disbelief and shouted, This is a high-level ancient beast, black-green eye. The princes were shocked. They didn't even see any high-level spirit beasts, but a high-level ancient beast had suddenly appeared. This was the royal hunting ground. How could there be such an ancient beast? Retreat! Retreat! Zhu Yun hurriedly ordered and turned to run. Black-green, I was not an ordinary high-level ancient beast, because its size was not ordinary. Boom! Just as the princes were about to turn and run, a gigantic ancient beast charged at them. It had a pair of green eyes for limbs and silvery white fur all over its body. It was several hundred meters tall, and every time it ran, the ground would tremble. However, upon closer inspection, the green eyes and black eyes looked a bit like a gorilla. Even the way it ran was a bit similar. However, its face was filled with fear. Its green eyes seemed to have seen something even more terrifying. It ran outside without a care for its life. The war horses of the princes were relatively fast, but compared to a high-level ancient beast, they were still lacking. "Scatter and run," Zhu Yan shouted. Black-green, I looked at the princes that were like ants, and it wanted to stomp them to death. A few princes instantly died under Black-Green Eye's huge foot, and they were actually stomped into meat paste. "Stop!" Zhu Yan suddenly shouted. Everyone stopped what they were doing and dodged the attack very well. After that, Black Eye ran away just like that. What was going on? Wasn't it chasing after him? Why did he run away? Imperial brother, Black Eye seems to be being chased by something. Zhu gasped for breath. The situation just now was truly terrifying. If the black-eyed beast turned around and attacked, the consequences would be unthinkable. In actuality, this black-eyed beast was much more powerful than Ing Family's and Voidless Realm's divine beasts, and they weren't on the same level at all. However, in Voidless Realm, this black-eyed beast was merely a high-rank ancient beast. On the other hand, Ing Family and Voidless Realm's godly beasts could only be considered as high-level spiritual beasts at most. Just as Zhu Yan was about to say something, the ground suddenly began to squirm. Everyone looked at their feet. There was something moving quickly below them. Everyone had a bad feeling as they looked at Black-Eyed, who was running for his life in the distance. Boom! The princes stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. A gigantic corpse koan drilled out from the ground and opened its bloody mouth. Its green eyes were filled with panic. In terms of size, the two weren't on the same level at all. The corpse koan was several thousand meters long, and when it opened its bloody mouth, it was large enough to swallow the black-eyed beast whole. Fear appeared on Black-Eye's face. Although it had jumped high into the air, it wasn't flying, and it was still going to fall. Lowering its head and looking at the huge mouth that was filled with a fishy smell, Black-Eyed fell into despair. The corpse koan could be seen fiercely closing its mouth and letting out a loud sound. The lower half of Black-Eye's body was gone, and only its chest and head were left. The two enormous beasts landed from the sky, raising a cloud of dust. All the princes were dumbstruck. However, the matter wasn't over yet. Right now, Black-Eyed wasn't completely dead yet. Its strong desire to live was telling it that it still had a chance to live. The corpse koan was like a python as it revolved around Black-Eyed, seemingly playing with this weak life. Imperial brother, why would this ferocious beast appear in Changlin? Zhu's tone was filled with boundless fear. It is impossible for such a ferocious beast to appear in Changlin. Zhu Yan's chest moved up and down, seeming to be very excited. However, within this excitement, there was also deep fear, blood glow, blood glow, blood glow. All the princes thought back to what happened a few days ago. Although the news of what happened was sealed off, all of them still knew about it. Now that the corpse koan suddenly appeared in Changlin, does this mean that the blood glow has been verified? The corpse koan seemed to have finished playing with the corpse koan and swallowed the remaining black-eyed. Right now, all the princes didn't dare to make any movements, fearing that this damnable corpse koan would attack them. If that happened, they would be dead for sure. On the other side, Zhu Zhengqing and his men had hunted quite a lot of low-grade spiritual beasts, and their results were pretty good. Crown Prince, do you think that this Zhu Yan will ambush us like how he did in the past? Zhu Di asked with a smile on his face while stepping on the three-horned deer's corpse. Zhu Zhengqing sneered. Other than ambush, could it be that he still has other tricks up his sleeves? Perhaps he might even call an accomplice? Zhu Di said jokingly. Accomplice? This is a battle between princes. If he really calls an accomplice, and this matter is reported to father, the one who will be out of luck will still be him. Although the emperor allowed the princes to fight during the hunt, it was ultimately a battle within the family, and if outsiders were to get involved, it would be a huge crime. Your Highness is right, but we must also be careful. Zhu Di warned. This was the same as Wu Ma, and they were both doing it for the sake of the crown prince. However, when these words fell into Zhu Zhengqing's ears, it was different, as if he was looking down on him. What is there to be afraid of? A small Zhu Yun. It's almost time to go in. This crown prince will take this Zhu Yun's head today. Zhu Zhengqing was incomparably arrogant. He was truly someone who was not afraid of being beaten. Roar! Suddenly, a roar came from the depths of the forest. Everyone couldn't help but stop in their tracks, and their positions started to shake slightly. Your Highness, this is an ancient beast. Zhu Di guessed. Because it was too far away, he could only make a guess. Zhu Zhengqing waited for a long time, and nothing happened. As if the roar was just an illusion, he chuckled. Let's go. At this time, Zhu Yun was sweating profusely. The corpse Kuan was actually not moving. Furthermore, the corpse Kuan was fixedly staring at Zhu Yun's side, as if it was issuing a warning. Looking at the festering flesh and the stench coming from the corpse Kuan, the princes' faces flushed red, and they felt like vomiting, but they didn't dare to vomit. Suddenly, a cheerful melody rang out from the depths of the forest. Happy goat, beautiful goat, lazy goat, boiling goat. At this kind of gloomy moment, there was actually someone singing, and everyone couldn't help but look over. Chapter 402. Don't look at me as a sheep. I am actually a wolf. The princes looked at the little girl stupidly. They weren't shocked by the little girl, but because the little girl was riding on the sheep and swaggered past the corpse Kuan. How is this possible? This is a ferocious corpse Kuan, a powerful and ferocious beast that kills people like killing chickens. You, such a cute little girl, actually walked past him and sat on the back of a weak spirit goat. Isn't this the same as delivering delicious food? Yi Zizi stretched out her little hand and yawned. I love his honor so much. He actually let me relieve pressure like this. Sob, sob, sob. I'm so happy these lowly humans revealed that terrified expression again. It was so comfortable to watch. When Yi Zizi stopped in front of the corpse Kuan, everyone took in a mouthful of cold air. If they still don't know what is going on, then they aren't fit to be princes. This little girl is the mastermind behind the scenes, and this corpse Kuan is listening to her. My God, how is this possible? Why would a powerful corpse Kuan listen to a little girl? Yi Zizi jumped down from the sheep's back, then looked at the well-dressed princes in front of her and said, Little brothers, how do you want to die? Zhu Yin looked at the cute little lowly and the huge corpse Kuan in front of him, and his mind actually went blank. Zhu Zhu, who was at the side, was also stupefied. This is simply unbelievable. However, one of the princes came back to his senses rather quickly. He could no longer hold back the fear in his heart, and he immediately rode on the spiritual horse and fled. Yi Zizi let out a light sigh, as if she was feeling very regretful. Then, a strand of hair that was like a sharp blade pierced through the prince's head, and the prince hung high up in the air. It has been a long time since I tasted blood essence. Yi Zizi greedily sucked in the blood essence, and a blurry expression appeared on her face. However, the other princes were no longer calm. Looking at their brother who was hung up in the air, their limbs twitched, their eyes rolled up, their skin became whiter and whiter. In the blink of an eye, they became just skin and bones. Slurp, Yi Zizi couldn't help but let out a sound. Don't let them get away, Yi Zizi said faintly. The corpse Kuan behind her seemed to have woken up, and it emitted a terrifying aura. Boom, boom. In the other two directions, two more corpse Kuan drilled out from the ground, and those huge heads stared at the princes. Surrounded by three corpse Kuans, the princes were scared witless. They were smart enough to know that they were done for today. I have no enmity with you. Why do you want to kill us? Zhu Yin couldn't help but ask. Even if he was going to die, he had to understand. Yi Zizi slowly walked over and said with a sweet smile, "Who said that one must have a grudge to kill? You. Little big brother, you don't have to be too sad. It's hard for everyone to avoid death. Believe me, your death is heavier than a goose feather, Wrong. Heavier than Mount Tai, lighter than Mount Tai? Yi Zizi rubbed her head with both of her hands. I wrote it down from memory last night. How could I have forgotten about it? Zhu Zhu summoned his courage and roared. We're princes of heaven's sanctum. You won't have it easy either. I know that you are princes, and there's also a crown prince, Yi Zizi said with a mischievous smile. She seemed like a sinister little lowly. Zhu Yun said in a deep voice, You're talking about Zhu Zhengxing? Are you here for Zhu Zhengxing? You can say that I am. This idiot provoked someone that he shouldn't have provoked. Zhu Zhengxing is not here. He is in another direction. You can just go and find him. Zhu Yun hurriedly reported the location. Yi Zizi laughed. I know. I will go after I kill you all. It seems like it's useless to say so much. Zhu Yun was confused and questioned, Why do you want to kill us? Because of Zhu Zhengxing. Yi Zizi had a look of, You are an idiot. Is there even a need to ask on her face? Then why don't you go and find Zhu Zhengxing? Because you all aren't dead yet. Yi Zizi stood on her feet and stroked the spirit goat beside her, and that spirit goat closed its eyes comfortably. Zhu Yun remained silent for a while, then asked one last question. I want to know, will Zhu Zhengxing die too? He won't die. PFFF. Zhu Yun spat out a mouthful of blood from anger. It was obviously Zhu Zhengxing who caused all of this. Why did he not die in the end? And yet I have to die for him. In this life, I am just a foil. Even if I die, I will still be like this. Zhu Yun is not willing to accept this. Wow. You are so angry to the point of vomiting blood. Just how big of a grudge do you all have against each other? Yi Zizi cried out in surprise. It was very rare for someone to vomit blood from anger. Zhu Yun seemed to have collapsed in an instant, then said, A very big grudge. It's a pity that I have a mission to complete. I am unable to help you take revenge. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth. His honor's order was to leave Zhu Zhengxing alive, and the other princes will do as they see fit. The meaning of do as they see fit was very clear. That is, death. There was no other possibility. However, when these words fell into the ears of the princes, it was as if a bolt from the blue had struck them, causing their ears to ring. This little girl actually has a mission to complete. Then who is the person who gave her the mission? Everyone's scalp went numb, and they couldn't help but think of the bloody glow. The legend is real. When the bloody glow appears, the country will face disaster. However, I can let you all die together. At least you all will be able to see each other's miserable state. What do you think? Yi Zizi suggested. Zhu Yun agreed to Yi Zizi's suggestion without even thinking. If I am really going to die, I want to see them suffer the same fate as me. On the other side, Zhu Zhengxing had already charged into the depths of Chonglin. Just that, along the way, they did not encounter any spiritual beasts. Zhu Di said gravely, Your Highness the Crown Prince, I have a bad feeling about this. Zhu Di, why are you acting the same as Wuman? Zhu Zhengxing said gravely. This Zhu Zhengxing doesn't learn his lesson at all. Back then, when he was at Ji family, Wuma, and had a bad premonition. If he had gone back to Ji family back then, everything would have been fine. Right now, Zhu Di also had a bad premonition. This Zhu Zhengxing is still the same. He doesn't listen to advice. However, this time, even if he listens to advice, he won't be able to run away. Zhu Di didn't dare to say anything, fearing that he would anger the crown prince. After circling around the depths of Chonglin, Zhu Zhengxing didn't see any spiritual beasts, and this caused Zhu Zhengxing to be puzzled. Your Highness the Crown Prince, Zhu Yun and the others have been discovered ahead of us. A prince rushed over and reported. Zhu Zhengxing snorted coldly. From the looks of it, those spiritual beasts were scared away by my prestige. If that's the case, we can only kill them. Jia. With Zhu Zhengxing at the lead, the group of princes rushed toward Zhu Yun. When Zhu Zhengqing saw Zhu Yun and the others standing together, Zhu Zhengqing pulled the horse under him and said with a smile, "Imperial brother, this year we are not going for a sneak attack, but an open attack." Zhu Zhengqing, just what did you do? Zhu Yun shouted coldly. This fellow must have done something outrageous. Otherwise, how could he have offended such a ferocious person? Impudent, you actually dared to speak of the crown prince's name? Zhu Di shouted angrily. Chapter 403. It was normal for princes to dislike each other, but it was rare for them to curse like this. Even if they wanted to curse, they would curse behind someone's back. However, it was rare to curse in front of someone's face, not to mention that the person being cursed was the crown prince. Zhu Zhu's curse made the princes on Zhu Zhengqing's side very surprised, but Zhu Yun's side was much more normal. Zhu Zhu, do you know the crime of cursing this crown prince? If you have the guts, try cursing again. Zhu Zhengqing's face didn't look good. After all, it was in front of so many people. Crime? Isn't it just losing your head? This daddy is cursing you. Zhu Zhengqing, you bastard. Damn Zhu Zhengqing. Even if this daddy becomes a ghost, I will kill you. Zhu Zhengqing, you bastard, this daddy will kill your whole family. All kinds of curses started to attack Zhu Zhengqing, which made him feel that something was wrong, but he didn't care. Instead, he suspected that this was a trap. Zhu Yun, I didn't expect that this year there will be no sneak attacks or open attacks, but a war of words. Zhu Zhengqing couldn't help but mock them. He planned to kill a few to show his strength, then beat up the rest to let them know that this crown prince wasn't someone to be trifled with. Zhu Yun coldly laughed. Zhu Zhengqing, what kind of stupid thing did you do? Don't you have any idea? Do you know how many people you will kill? Zhu Zhengqing's heart sank. He couldn't help but think about what happened a few days ago. Could it be that other than Che Hongliang, Zhu Yun also knew? It must be Che Hongliang who told him. Damn, they're all despicable people. It seems like this person can't be left alive today. Hearing Zhu Yun's words, coupled with the attitude of the princes, Zhu Di was puzzled, feeling that something was wrong. The princes behind were also discussing in low voices. After all, the princes weren't fools. Could it be that something really happened? What did this crown prince do that angered even the gods? Crown Prince, what do you think? Zhu Di asked, seemingly wanting to hear the crown prince's explanation. This made Zhu Zhengqing very unhappy. Zhu Di, what kind of attitude is this? Are you questioning this crown prince? I don't dare, Judith hurriedly said. However, she was a little unhappy in her heart. Yelling at her in front of so many princes was not giving her any face at all. Zhu Yun suddenly laughed, then became more and more crazy, making everyone think that Zhu Yun was stupid. Ha 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 ha. You're all going to die, ha ha ha. We are all going to die, ha ha. Following this crazy laughter, Zhu Yun's faction couldn't help but laugh, but there were also people who cried. Zhu Zhengqing's people were all very surprised. It was fine if one of them was crazy, but all of them had gone crazy. Could it be that they had been bewitched? Moreover, for them to say such words, it was very puzzling. Zhu Zhengqing looked on coldly, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. This laughter seemed to be mocking him. Beat him up. If he dies, it's on me. Zhu Zhengqing, who had flown into a rage out of humiliation, seemed to have gone mad as well. The princes behind him were also very obedient. They immediately rode their horses over and started a one-sided beating. At the end of the day, they didn't really dare to kill him. In the past, there were times when they failed, but those were normal fights between the two sides. But this time, Zhu Yun and the others from the prince's faction didn't fight back at all. They were still laughing and crying when they were beaten. This made the princes who were fighting stop. Something was not right. You guys are really noisy. The sudden voice caused all the princes to be stunned for a moment. They immediately looked over. Their eyes were filled with doubt and greed. Of course, Zhu Yun's side was filled with the fear of impending death. Although Zhu Zhengqing didn't like this kind of thing, when he saw such a cute little girl, he couldn't help but have some thoughts. Yi Zizi sat on the spirit goat's back, sizing up the group of princes. Sucking them should be very enjoyable. Little sister, where did you come from? Are you lost? Zhu Zhengqing jumped down from his horse, revealing a warm smile. Yi Zizi also revealed a sweet smile. Little brother, are you Zhu Zhengqing? Zhu Zhengqing paused, then immediately smiled. That's right, I am Zhu Zhengqing, the current crown prince. That's good. Yi Zizi's sweet smile instantly turned dark, causing everyone to feel that something was wrong. Bang, bang, bang. 3 loud sounds shook the sky, and 3 corpse koan drilled out from the ground. Those thick, long, and huge bodies surrounded everyone. Their huge heads stared at everyone from 3 directions, and the mucus dripping from the corners of their mouths corroded the grass. This is a vicious beast. It's a corpse koan. Heavens! How could a corpse koan appear in Chonglin? This is impossible. The princes on Zhu Zhengqing's side could not remain calm, and pulled out their swords, looking at the 3 huge corpse koan in fear. All dead, ha ha! Zhu Yun laughed maniacally. Yi Zizi pouted, so noisy. A strand of hair with a sharp wind drilled into the back of Zhu Yun's head, and the laughter immediately stopped. His whole body began to twitch, and in the blink of an eye, he was reduced to skin and bones. This sudden change caused all the princes to be dumbfounded. Who is this little girl? Who are you? Zhu Zhengqing had no other thoughts, and his face immediately changed. With 3 corpse koan looking down on him, if he could still remain calm, then he was not an ordinary person. Yi Zizi jumped down from the spirit goat and took small steps. Zhu Zhengqing, don't you know who I am? Seeing that Yi Zizi was approaching him step by step, Zhu Zhengqing unconsciously retreated, and soon after, his butt fell onto the ground. This made him think back to 3 days ago. How could there be such a person in that kind of low-level world with such strength, and to even be able to control 3 corpse koan? Yi Zizi swept her gaze across everyone, then said with a smile, I am not only targeting Zhu Zhengqing, I am also targeting everyone here. Because of him, all of you are going to die. Everyone finally understood why Zhu Yun went crazy. Seems like he already knew that he was going to die. Crown Prince, aren't you going to give us an explanation? Zhu Di was still rather calm, and he shouted out towards Zhu Zhengqing. No, I don't know anything. Zhu Zhengqing didn't even think too much and immediately jumped onto his unicorn, then ran away madly, and even ran past the corpse koan. Everyone thought that Zhu Zhengqing was going to die, and he was going to die very miserably. But nothing happened. Those corpse koan didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun, and that little girl also didn't pay attention to Zhu Yun. Zhu Zhengqing ran away just like that. When some princes saw that even the crown prince ran away and didn't get injured, they began to imitate Zhu Yun and immediately got onto their unicorn and ran away. Yi Zizi grinned, and several strands of hair flew into the sky. Those princes who were riding on the unicorn were instantly pierced through the back of their heads, and all of them hung in the sky. I said, all of you are going to die. With a cruel smile on her face, Yi Zizi began sucking the blood essence of the gods. Chapter 404. I like it, Yi Zizi said softly. Her twin ponytails immediately flew up, and countless strands of hair silently pierced through the back of everyone's head. Only Zhu Di didn't. Her black hair gradually turned blood red, and a layer of crimson appeared on Yi Zizi's face. She even closed her eyes in intoxication. Zhu Di looked at the scene in front of her and felt that her heart was about to stop. The hand that was holding onto the sword trembled intensely. Why am I not dead? Why is she keeping me alive? In the blink of an eye, other than Zhu Di, all of the princes turned into skin and bones, just like a layer of paper stacked together. I haven't felt so good for a long time. Too amazing. You're amazing. Yi Zizi was so excited that even her sweet voice changed, becoming deep and ghostly. Because she was too excited, that cute face looked especially sinister. After a long time, Yi Zizi calmed down and returned to normal. I am not like that usually. Zhu Di, you don't need to explain. You're just like that. That was your true appearance just now. You devil. Licking the corner of her lips, Yi Zizi let out a sweet voice. You can go. Zhu Di was confused. Why did she let me go? I heard that devils like to see their enemies running away and enjoy that instant of pleasure before killing them to satisfy their perverted psychological needs. Could it be that this little girl is the same? If you don't go, I will also suck you. Yi Zizi snorted lightly. Zhu Di didn't dare to think too much. Running away was better than being sucked. At least there was a trace of hope. Just like that, Yi Zizi looked at Zhu Di running away and didn't chase after her. Zhu Di, who was running away, felt very heavy in her heart. If her body turned cold and her head was removed, she would definitely not be surprised. However, after running for a period of time, nothing actually happened. Seems like the other party really let me go. I immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. Yi Zizi took in a deep breath and yawned. She jumped onto the spirit goat and started to head towards the direction where the two ran away, because there was still something that she hadn't announced yet. As for why she let Zhu Di go, this was also Yi Zizi's sudden change of mind. Although she let Zhu Jinqing go, Yi Zizi felt that she couldn't let him have it too easy. If she let another person go and told the truth about the situation here, that crown prince would probably panic. If Yi Huan knew that Yi Zizi had such a mind, he would definitely be very gratified. Yi Zizi was no longer that little girl who only knew how to suck up humans. Right now, she had also become courageous and resourceful, and was able to destroy the enemy from within. The Imperial Guards were stationed outside the temporary courtyard. As the commander, Wu Ma Chao was patrolling to see if there were any signs of enemies. His bright eyes were looking at Chong Lin, who was not far away. Suddenly, Wu Ma Chao's gaze focused. A horse ran out of the forest. Open the door. Hurry up and open the door. Zhu Zhengqing, who was on the horse, shouted in a panic. Wu Ma Chao shouted, Open the door. Zhu Zhengqing, who was running at top speed, suddenly felt weak and fell off his horse. When the soldiers saw the crown prince fall off his horse, they rushed over. Wu Ma Chao walked over with a puzzled expression. Your Highness! Water! 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 Zhu Jingqing's face was slack and his eyes were filled with deep fear. A soldier took the water bottle, and Zhu Zhengqing took it and drank it. After drinking the water, he calmed down a little. Wu Ma Chao asked in a deep voice, Your Highness, where are the other princes? Dead. They're all dead, Zhu Jingqing murmured. He looked like he was quite frightened. Hearing Zhu Zhengqing's answer, Wu Ma Chao's expression tightened. He asked, Your Highness, this matter cannot be joked about. What happened? Monster. They're all monsters. They're all dead. Zhu Zhengqing yelled at Wu Ma Chao. Wu Ma Chao's expression darkened. He immediately shouted, Pass down my order. All troops be on guard. Report. Prince Zhu Di has returned. A soldier quickly came over to report. Not long after, Zhu Di rode his horse back with a gloomy expression. He jumped off his horse and looked at the exhausted Zhu Zhengqing. Wu Ma Chao frowned. The crown prince had said that everyone was dead. How could there still be someone alive? He walked forward and asked, Prince Zhu Di, what happened? Zhu Di, with an obscure expression, walked past Wu Ma Chao towards Zhu Zhengqing. He lowered his head to look at the person who should have died and raised his fist. Bang! This fist ruthlessly landed on Zhu Zhengqing's face. Wu Ma Chao was stunned. Zhu Di was Zhu Zhengqing's trusted aide. He was like his own son. What was happening today? Wu Ma Chao didn't expect things to turn out like this. He immediately pulled back the rampaging Zhu Di. Prince, you'll get into trouble like this. Beating up the crown prince was a serious crime. Moreover, there were so many people watching. Don't pull me back. I'm going to kill this animal today. Zhu Di felt a wave of lingering fear when he thought about what had just happened. Although he had helped the crown prince, that was only a power struggle. However, this was related to the safety of the empire, and he had crossed the line. That little girl had killed all the princes. He wouldn't let her off so easily. Following Zhu Di's curses, all the soldiers were shocked. This Prince Zhu Di dared to insult the crown prince. Did he not want to live anymore? Zhu Zhengqing, who had been punched, seemed to wake up. He stood up and gave the prince a kick. Mother *Ker, I'll kill you, Zhu Zhengqing coldly shouted. Wu Ma Chao immediately gave the order to separate the two and bring them to see the emperor. Right now, Zhu Chengxian was currently pampering an imperial concubine. Right when he was about to do it, a voice sounded out from outside the door. Your Majesty, the crown prince and the princes have started fighting. Zhu Chengxian was originally very excited, but when he heard what the emperor said, he immediately lost all interest. Zhu Chengxian stood up, and that imperial concubine's face was filled with hidden bitterness. Just a little bit more. After arriving at the front hall, Zhu Chengxian looked at his two sons and asked gravely, What happened to the two of you? You even caused a ruckus here. Father Emperor, Zhu Zhengqing caused a huge ruckus. Zhu Di knelt onto the ground. Before Zhu Zhengqing could say anything, a soldier hurriedly rushed in. Fear could be seen on the soldier's face as he said, Your Majesty. A little girl appeared in Chonglin. Hearing the word, little girl, Zhu Zhengqing and Zhu Di's expression immediately changed. What happened to her? Zhu Chengxian asked gravely. She kidnapped all the princes. What? Zhu Chengxian suddenly stood up and shouted out. The might of an emperor immediately spread out. Wu Ma Chao cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Let me go and take a look. I will go with you. The two of you kneel here. After finished speaking, the emperor didn't even look at his two sons and walked out of the front hall with Wu Ma Chao. Chapter 405. Behind Yizizi, the three corpse Kun stood upright. Their enormous bodies emitted a tyrannical aura that soared to the heavens. Although the soldiers stationed outside the courtyard stood firm, their bodies were trembling. They had never seen such a scene before. After all, they were only the guards of the imperial palace. They were only responsible for the safety of the imperial palace, and there had been no casualties in the imperial palace for the past 1,000 years. Some of the family members of the princes in the courtyard seemed to have received some news. Then, seeing the emperor hurriedly walk out, they all followed him out to observe the situation. When Zhu Chengxian and Wu Ma Chao stood on the temporary stone wall, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of princes were suspended in midair, their faces filled with terror and terror. Zhu Chengxian gripped the wall tightly with both hands, his eyes filled with anger. Those were his sons. That's a corpse Kun, a vicious beast from outside the border. Not a single one has appeared in 1,000 years, but now 3 have appeared. How is this possible? Wu Ma Chao muttered with fear in his eyes. Having guarded the border for many years, he understood this kind of vicious beast the best. It was incomparably brutal. At that time, he was still a young man. He had followed his father and encountered the corpse Kun once. That battle had resulted in countless casualties before the corpse Kun was repelled. However, his father was heavily injured and passed away in the last few years. It could be seen how powerful this vicious beast was. Zhu Chengxian calmed down and shouted in a deep voice, Who are you? Why are you capturing this emperor's sons? Hurry up and let them go. No, Zizi mumbled as she sucked on her lollipop. Why did this sentence sound so helpless and infuriating? Zhu Chengxian was infuriated. His words were like a sharp blade stabbing into his chest. Go save this emperor's son. Where is the heavenly master? Where is my heavenly master? Your Majesty, the celestial master is ill and did not come, Wu Ma Chao said in a deep voice. Ingwei did not come. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with the emperor. Your Majesty, calm down. This is a corpse Kun. You can't act rashly. Otherwise, the consequences will be unthinkable. Wu Ma Chao tried his best to persuade them. This small number of people wouldn't even be enough to fill the gaps between the corpse Kun's teeth. This emperor's child. The princes struggled helplessly in midair. They looked at their father on the stone wall and stretched out their hands. This was a son's plea to his father for help. Father, please save your son. Imperial father, I don't want to die. I didn't participate in the power struggle. I don't want to die. The princes' wives were also standing on the stone walls. When they saw their husbands, they couldn't help but cover their faces in disbelief. Some even cried loudly, and some even knelt behind Emperor Zhu Chengxian, begging him to save their husbands. They were all innocent. "Hey, are you the emperor?" Yi Zizi shouted at Zhu Chengxian. Zhu Qingshuan's breathing was rapid, but he had calmed down a little. "I am." Yi Zizi licked her lollipop. "I finally found you. The reason why I came here today is to pass on his honor's decree." "Your honor." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. How did they provoke a supreme being? Is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? Zhu Qingshuan's anger subsided a lot as he asked. "Just ask the crown prince, and you'll know." Yi Zizi slowly floated in the air and flew towards Zhu Chengxian. The princes in the air also hovered over. "What are you trying to do?" Wuma Caohu shouted in front of Zhu Chengxian. Yi Zizi retracted her smile and said coldly, "According to his honor's decree, you have 3 days to prepare. 3 days later, his honor will come here and bathe the imperial city in blood." As soon as she finished speaking, hundreds of princes violently twitched and instantly turned into skin and bones. All the generals were stunned. They couldn't even muster the will to resist. This was not a fight on the same level. Zhu Qingshuan's eyes were bloodshot as he watched his son die in front of him. He clenched his fists tightly, and the princes' wives all cried until they fainted. Yi Zizi sucked on her lollipop again. 3 days. Hurry up and bring out your strongest abilities. Don't disappoint his honor. Goodbye. After she finished speaking, she revealed a cute smile and disappeared into the air. The 3 corpse koan drilled into the ground and disappeared without a trace. However, they were still hidden dangers. Zhu Chengxian looked at the skin and bones on the ground. His head was dizzy and his body fell backwards. "Your Majesty!" Wuma Caohu hurriedly supported him. Zhu Chengxian grabbed Wuma Caohu's arm. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was distorted. "Go back. I need to properly interrogate that unfilial son." On top of the stone wall, everyone was crying. The soldiers' bodies were stiff, and they didn't even have the strength to lift their legs. Outside, hundreds of skin and bones were scattered. The scene was shocking. This made everyone realize a problem. In front of absolute power, even the imperial family had no way to resist. Zhu Chengxian hurriedly walked towards the hall. His expression was frighteningly gloomy. Behind him, Wuma Caohu was also frowning. This matter was actually related to the crown prince and his son's disappearance? Could it be? Thinking about this, Wuma Caohu emitted a faint killing intent. At this moment, Zhu Zhengqing and Zhu Di were still kneeling in the hall. When they heard the footsteps outside, they immediately lowered their heads. Especially Zhu Zhengqing. He could no longer remain calm. Zhu Chengxian walked towards the crown prince and fiercely kicked Zhu Zhengqing, sending him flying. Then, he immediately sat on the main seat. Zhu Zhengqing's body was like a cannonball as he fiercely smashed out of the room. Waves of muffled sounds rang out from outside. It could be seen how powerful the kick was. "Zhu Di, tell me what happened." Zhu Di didn't dare to lie and told everything that happened just now. Zhu Chengxian felt a wave of dizziness after hearing it and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. "Your Majesty, Father Emperor." At this moment, waves of hurried footsteps rang out from outside again. The Empress, Che Mainyang, and Che Hongliang could be seen appearing. "Your Majesty, Yin-er, where's my Yin-er?" Che Mainyang's beautiful face revealed a panicked expression. Meanwhile, Che Hongliang hurriedly bowed with a grave expression. "Empress, out of all the princes, only Zhu Zhengqing and I are left. The other princes have all died," Zhu Di said sorrowfully. Che Mainyang blankly looked at Zhu Di, who was kneeling on the ground. "A few hours ago, my son was alive and well, and a few hours later, he told me that he died." "Empress!" Che Hongliang cried out in surprise. The Empress could be seen directly fainting on the ground. Emperor Zhu Chengxian gasped for breath and said coldly, "Go. go and bring that unfilial son over. Yes, Wu Ma Caohu replied coldly. After quite a while, Wu Ma Caohu carried Zhu Zhengqing over. Right now, Zhu Zhengqing's entire body was covered in blood, and he had suffered very serious external injuries. However, his life was not in danger. Speak. Tell me everything in full detail. I, the Emperor, have lost a few hundred of my sons today. I don't mind losing another one. Zhu Changxian stared fixedly at Zhu Zhengqing. What that little girl said just now was very obvious. Everything that happened was because of Zhu Zhengqing. This His Highness the Crown Prince. Father Emperor, I'll speak. I'll speak. Right now. How would Zhu Zhengqing dare to hide anything? Your son accidentally found Yua's bloodline and Dong Huang's bloodline. Chapter 406. Speak. Continue. Zhu Changxian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Zhu Zhengqing gulped. These two bloodlines are under the control of Lord Marquis. They are both in the plains under his jurisdiction. So you're in a hurry to take over the plain? Zhu Changxian instantly understood. Ho Xuelin wanted to monopolize the two branches, and after his son found out, he became greedy. Zhu Zhengqing fell silent, tacitly acknowledging the truth. And then, Zhu Zhengqing said, after that, a few days ago, I brought along my trusted subordinates and went over, wanting to meet them, but they were too powerful, and I was the only one who didn't make it through. What about Minor? Wu Ma Chao asked angrily. Zhu Zhengqing didn't dare to look directly at it, and said in a low voice, he was burned to death. What? Father Emperor, I thought that there wouldn't be any formidable figures appearing in that kind of low-level plane, but who would have thought that a little girl would actually be able to defeat us? Upon thinking about Dong Wangli, Zhu Zhengqing couldn't help but tremble a bit. Zhu Changxian questioned coldly, is it that little girl just now? No, not the one just now. It is even smaller than the one just now. Hearing Zhu Zhengqing's words, the hall was silent. A child younger than a monster just now. What kind of monster was that? How could there be such a person in such a low-level plane? Your Majesty, I think we should immediately return to the palace to discuss a countermeasure. Che Hongliang made the most sincere suggestion. Zhu Changxian was silent for a moment before he said, send someone to retrieve the corpses of the princes. This emperor will naturally take revenge for this. As for the crown prince, he will be stripped of his title and thrown into the dungeon to be dealt with later. Father Emperor, please spare me. I didn't do it on purpose. Father Emperor. Zhu Zhengqing's entire body was covered with blood, and it seemed like Zhu Zhengqing wanted to crawl towards his father Emperor, but the soldiers outside the door grabbed onto Zhu Zhengqing and brought him away. Imperial Father, spare my life. Zhu Zhengqing's pleading voice could still be heard from outside the hall. If he had known this would happen, he would never have gone to such a low-level plane. The bloodline of the Nuwa clan and the bloodline of the Dongwang clan were not as important as his life. Wealth was sought in danger. Zhu Zhengqing obviously did not seek wealth, but brought disaster upon himself. If Yihua wasn't that powerful, Zhu Zhengqing might have succeeded, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Return to the palace. Zhu Changxian shouted in a deep voice. The majestic team had only been here for a few hours, but they suddenly returned. This made many people in the city curious, and they were all discussing why the royal family suddenly returned to the palace. The hunt would last for 7 days. Could it be that something had happened? This was what everyone was thinking. Moreover, from the number of people in the group, there were a lot fewer people, and those who were missing were princes dressed in luxurious clothes. This gave rise to all kinds of speculations. The team did not land outside the imperial city. Instead, they flew directly into the imperial palace. Of course, the news of all the princes being killed had to be kept under wraps. Otherwise, it would cause unnecessary panic. After Zhu Changxian returned to the palace, he immediately summoned all the ministers to discuss how to deal with this matter. Heavenly Master, do you have a good plan to repel the enemy? Zhu Changxian, who was sitting on the throne, asked in a low voice. His tone was filled with desolation. Anyone who encountered such a thing would collapse, but Zhu Chengxian was the emperor. No matter how great the pressure was, he had to endure it. Ing Wei turned around and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, the blood ray has come true." Everyone present was silent. The legend of the blood ray was true. It had only been a few days, yet it had already happened. 3 days later, it would be even more impossible. Not to mention anything else. Just the 3 corpse koan were enough to keep them busy. What bullsh** T blood ray? This subject believes that in a battle between 2 armies, the one who strikes first has the advantage. If your Majesty trusts this subject is willing to take 100,000 soldiers and slaughter that lower plane as an offering to the heroic spirits of the princes. Wu Ma Chao was brimming with murderous intent. The little girl only knew demonic techniques. It was only because of the 3 corpse koan's presence that he didn't dare to act. Moreover, the corpse koan was a vicious beast from heaven's domain. Those lower planes didn't have them, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Che Hongliang disagreed and cupped his hands, saying, "General Wu, if we send out our troops, then there will be no room for negotiation. You have to know that the other party could be a supreme." "So what if he's a supreme? Can a supreme kill princes as he pleases?" Wu Ma Chao was a bit selfish. He wanted to take revenge for his son. As for the little girl the crown prince spoke of, she was killed because they were not as skilled. Ing Wei calmly said, "Your Majesty, this subject believes that we should invite a supreme to mediate this matter. Is there a need for a supreme for such a small matter? Your Majesty, allow this subject to take revenge for the princes. That way, your Majesty will be at ease. General Wu, if you really bring your troops there will be a battle to the death." Che Hongliang warned. A general was a general after all. He was brainless. Wu Ma Chao coldly snorted. "Who knows if the little girl is bluffing? Your Majesty, we cannot be scared out of our wits by the enemy. Allow this subject to be the vanguard. If this subject fails, then it won't be too late to invite a supreme." Once these words were spoken, the hall began to whisper among themselves. Zhu Chengxian powerlessly asked, "Heavenly Teacher, what do you think of this method? General Wu's suggestion is not impossible, but if General Wu fails, then we can only place our hopes on a supreme. There will be no room for maneuver." Ing Wei's words were true. "Heavenly Teacher, you are boosting the morale of others and diminishing your own. This general has guarded the border for thousands of years and has experienced far more dangers than this. What is there to fear from such a lower plane? Che Hongliang, what do you think?" Zhu Chengxian asked. Che Hongliang lowered his voice and said, "My opinion is the same as yours. We can send our troops, but there is no way out." "Is there a way out now?" Wu Ma Chao laughed mockingly. This group of treacherous people only knew how to play tricks. "What do you all think?" Zhu Chengxian asked the officials. "I think General Wu's suggestion is feasible. Let's first test the enemy. If they are truly a fox exploiting the tiger's might, then we will destroy them." "I agree. I also agree. I also agree." Seeing so many people in favor of General Wu's suggestion, Zhu Chengxian seemed to have made a decision. After all the adult princes had been killed. It would be a lie to say that they were not angry. Moreover, this anger had to be washed away with blood. "Good. Wu Ma Chao, listen to the decree. I order you to take 100,000 soldiers and be the vanguard. If the enemy is a fox exploiting the tiger's might, bring their heads to see me. Then we will destroy that lower plane as a sacrifice to the souls of our princes." Wu Ma Chao knelt to receive the decree and shouted, "Do not worry, Your Majesty. I will definitely kill those inferior races. However, if I do not return within a day, Your Majesty will arrange for an audience with the Supreme. I hope Your Majesty will take care of my family." Chapter 407. This servant will not hesitate to risk my life. This servant will go and prepare now. Go. Wu Ma Chao bowed and left. Soon after, He went to gather 100,000 soldiers to take revenge for his son. In the palace hall, Sky Teacher sighed. Rather than attacking, I might as well express my goodwill. This is the best way to avoid this disaster. However, this was normal for His Majesty. It had been a long time since the royal family suffered a loss. For the royal family's face, they had to fight back. Sky Teacher, go and prepare for the ceremony. If General Wu Ma does not return tomorrow morning, we will ask Ji Zun for help. Right now, Zhu Chengxian only planned to use these two plans. He had a lot of confidence in Ji Zun. After all, Ji Zun was a very ethereal being. He was above gods and controlled the laws of the world. And the other party was just as self-proclaimed as honor. Who knows if it was real or fake? However, those 3 corpse coin were indeed very hard to deal with. Your Majesty, please be at ease. This servant will naturally make proper arrangements and do my best to get through this disaster. Ying Wei was a conservative person. Although the suggestion that he made was not very aggressive, it was very practical. If they followed Ying Wei's suggestion and sent someone to get in touch with Yi Hua and try to satisfy Yi Hua's request, there might be a trace of hope to solve the problem. All right, there's no hope at all. Under Zhu Zhengqing's attitude, Yi Hua had already determined his ending. Not only his ending, but the ending of the people around him as well. At that very moment, within the ruins of Ji family, there were 6 figures. They were huddled together and seemed to be discussing something. What is it? GGG, Imperial Translation. I want this place. Sun Fang, what is this fellow saying? He is speaking in a dialect I don't understand. Then we want this place. You guys go to Ying family and guard it. No, I want this place. You guys go to Ying family and Voidless Realm. These 6 people were naturally Voidless Realm and Death Mage. Death Mage, Sun Fang, Green and Red Brothers, plus Tang Wei and Zishan. The 6 of them followed his honor's instructions and came to wait for Yi Hua. Because Yi Hua felt that after Yi Zizi caused such a ruckus, the other party would definitely not sit still and do nothing. There was a possibility that the other party would take action, and the other party would definitely take action against the remaining 2 big shots or everyone. Thus, Yi Hua specially ordered Wei Chong to deal with them. Of course, Wei Chong wouldn't deal with it himself, so he arranged for his subordinates. In the beginning, he had called Death Mage and Sun Fang, but after feeling that there were too few people, he decided to call the Green and Red Brothers. In the end, when Tang Wei heard that there was going to be a fight, her hands became a bit itchy. Wei Chong naturally doted on Tang Wei a lot, and thus, he gave Tang Wei a chance to gain some experience. Adding on Zishan, who was by the side, there were only 6 of them. The 6 of them were divided into groups of 2, each guarding the 3 giants. However, all 6 of them knew that if they were to really come to Voidless Realm, they would definitely appear in Voidless Realm first, and there was at least an 88% chance that they would appear there. This was what Zishan had said herself, because if she really wanted to come here, the deities would definitely go and investigate, and there would be records of her. As soon as he said that, everyone wanted to stay here because there was work to do. They were so bored that their scalps were falling off. Hearing these women arguing, Big Brother Green said, "How about we play rock, paper, scissors? The winner will guard the G family side, and the loser will guard the other 2 sides. How about it?" After Sun Fang heard it, she felt that it was fine. Zishan and Tang Wei also felt that it was not a bad idea. Little brother, go. Big Brother Green pushed Yi Hong forward. As for Tang Wei, she pushed Zishan forward. You don't want a husband and wife team, and yet you want a brother team? You don't want your wife. Be careful of Zishan getting angry and killing you. Yi Hong looked at Zishan, then immediately shifted his gaze away. Yi Hong's heart was thumping wildly. Although they were already an old couple, every time Yi Hong saw Zishan, his heart would be in a mess, and every day he felt as if he was living the feeling of his first love. Death Mage pushed Sun Fang forward. This woman's luck was good. Back then, she helped me fish and won quite a bit of money. Before playing rock, paper, scissors, Zishan secretly glared at Yi Hong, seemingly saying, "If you dare to win against me, don't enter the room today. Go sleep on the sofa." Yihong felt that Zishan was threatening him, and naturally, he wouldn't fight with his wife over Zishan. This was a kind of display of doting on his wife. Rock, paper, scissors. Oh yeah, I win, Sun Fong laughed, then used a pair of scissors to wipe the two of them. Yihong spread out his hands. Don't blame me. Zishan snorted, acting coquettishly. After that, she left Ji family with Tang Wei and headed towards Ying family. As for the Green and Red brothers, they went to Voidless Realm. Meanwhile, inside Leisure Bar's office, Yihua was smoking a cigarette while standing beside the window and staring at the night sky, and Wei Chong was respectfully standing behind him. Your Honor, will they come? Wei Chong asked in a low voice. Yihua spat out a mouthful of smoke, and the smoke transformed into a skull, which was soon blown away by a breeze. According to those people's way of thinking, they definitely won't leave the matter at that. What's the saying again? Attack when the enemy is unprepared. Yihua said indifferently, then lightly flicked away the cigarette ash with his index finger, then took another puff of the cigarette. Comfortable. Wei Chong immediately complimented. Your Honor is truly courageous and resourceful. Subordinate is convinced. Wei Chong, I'm already tired of hearing those words. Prepare some new words. Extremely smart. Yihua almost choked on his own cigarette. Touching on his own hair, he said, if I were to become extremely smart, you would be the first one I would target. His Honor is just saying it casually. I have already said that I have stewed Ligu a few thousand times, but I still haven't stewed it yet. Your Honor, how many people are going to go 3 days later? Yihua took one last puff of the cigarette, then said faintly, everyone. Wei Chong, who was behind Yihua, revealed out a strange smile, seemingly like he was already impatient. There will always be some fellows who don't know the difference between life and death and want to anger his Honor. After knowing the consequences of their actions, it will be too late for regrets. In this world, there is no if. Imperial translation. Wife, how many gold coins have you sent? Right now, Death Mage and Sun Fong were sitting at the entrance of Ji family's house. Sun Fong was still sitting cross-legged on the broken chair, and her pair of tender fingers were tapping on the screen frantically. Death Mage, who was at the side, was not inferior in any way either. These two people are simply demon hands. Don't make a sound. We are fighting a boss. Aya, it is all your fault for distracting me, and the boss was actually snatched away by someone else. Sun Fong snorted. She was not willing to accept this outcome. Let's do another 648. I will kill you too. Death Mage looked at Sun Fong, who was at the side, and deeply despised her. Right now, I don't even need to top up money when I'm fishing. Do you believe me? Death Mage secretly opened up the top-up interface and instantly tapped on 648. Then he scanned his face and paid. Death Mage's movements were so skillful that he looked like a habitual criminal. What are you doing? Top up money. Sun Fong glared at Death Mage. GGG, Imperial translation. Top up money? Impossible. It is impossible for me to top up money in my entire life. Within the pitch-black ruins of Ji family, a different rhythm of music rang out. Furthermore, that noise seemed to have added a bit of liveliness to the ruins. Meanwhile, within Heaven's Manor, Wu Ma Chao had already finished his preparations. Looking at his 100,000-strong army, every single one of them was a fierce warrior who had been through hundreds of battles. Going to a low-level plane? Wouldn't it be just a matter of slaughtering dogs? Soldiers, I don't want to say any unnecessary words. I only have one request. Wu Ma Chao paused for a moment, then swept his fierce eyes around. Kill all of the living beings in front of us. Long live the general. Long live the general. What kind of feeling was it to have 100,000 soldiers shouting at the same time? If an ordinary person were to hear it, their entire body would go numb, and their brain would immediately be filled with blood. Chapter 408. Just as Zishan had guessed, Wu Ma Chao's teleportation location was indeed according to Ho Xiulin and Zhu Jingqing's. Therefore, he appeared at the Ji family's ruins. At this moment, A colorful glow appeared in the sky above the G family, illuminating the ruins of the G family. The light fell like a waterfall, covering the entire G family's ruins. The scene was breathtaking, and of course it was very grand. Figures gradually appeared in the light. Tens of thousands of people stood in a square formation, bringing with them an austere aura. After the light disappeared, the austere aura became heavier and heavier, forming a murderous aura. Everyone's eyes shone with a bloodthirsty light. Towards such a low-level plane, the soldiers only had one thought: to slaughter. Wu Ma Chao scanned the unfamiliar world. The air quality was not ordinary, and just smelling it made him want to vomit. However, an unusual sound rang out in the originally peaceful night. Wu Ma Chao, who was standing at the front of the army, raised his eyebrows. What was that sound? It seemed so young and immature. At that moment, Wu Ma Chao was wearing a black armor. Both of his shoulders were diamond-shaped and embedded with golden godly pearls. His breastplate was slightly protruding like the sharp teeth of a beast. Together with the half-moon broadsword in his hand, he looked like a god descending from the heavens. "General, be careful, there might be a trap. Wait for me to check." The deputy general cupped his hands and shouted. Wu Ma Chao sneered. He raised the ancient, godly weapon in his hand and slashed it down. Suddenly, a loud sound rang out. The huge broadsword formed a fan shape and swept out with a boundless and ferocious aura. It was as if it was going to crush everything in front of it. However, that was the case. In an instant, the buildings in front of him were all turned into powder. A man and a woman could be seen sitting not far away, playing with something with their heads lowered. And the sound of bu was coming from here. Wu Ma Chao was a bit shocked. Who were these two people? How could they control the power of the ancient godly weapon and not be turned into powder? They're here. Let's go take care of them. Sun Fang raised her head and took a look. It seemed that the game in her hands was more important. Death Mage let out a jijia sound. Imperial translation: "You fought for this yourself. How can you let me take care of it?" Sun Fang seemed to be able to understand what he was saying. She said in a sweet voice, "Are you going or not? If you're not going, then I won't top up the money for you." Seems like the person in charge of the money is Sun Fang. This caused Death Mage to be a little depressed. Stacking the phone and the power bank together, Death Mage placed them on the chair, and only after making sure that they would not fall down did he feel relieved. A black-robed man standing in front of an army of 100,000 was a rather comical sight. However, from Death Mage's point of view, the number of people on the other side wasn't as many as he had imagined. However, if he were to look down from above, the scene would be much more spectacular. "Who are you?" Wu Ma Chao pointed his blade at the Death Mage. "Kakik," the royal translator said. "Your father." Wu Ma Chao was stunned. What did that mean? Since Death Mage was wearing a black robe, Wu Ma Chao couldn't see his face clearly. That was why he was suspicious of his opponent's voice. Sun Fang translated while playing the game. "He's calling you an idiot. How dare you? General Wu Ma is not someone a piece of trash like you can slander." As the deputy general, he had to stand up for the general. Wu Ma Chao motioned for his deputies to withdraw and asked, "Why are you here?" "Biu." Sun Fang pressed her phone and laughed, "Waiting for you guys." "Kakik," the royal translator said, "My wife is right." Hearing Sun Fang's words, Wu Ma Chao laughed loudly. Even the soldiers behind him started laughing as well. "Just two people, and you want to fight against this general's army of 100,000? Are you guys stupid or insane?" Wu Ma Chao laughed in disdain. The people of this low-level plane were too arrogant because they didn't know what despair was. Sun Fang stood up and looked straight at Wu Ma Chao. "There's no need for two. One is enough to deal with you guys." "Ha ha, what a joke. You guys are the people who call themselves His Honor, right?" Wu Ma Chao asked while laughing. "That's right. His Honor predicted that you guys would come and launch a sneak attack. That's why he ordered us to receive you guys and serve you well," Sun Fang said while playing the game. This kind of attitude made Wu Ma Chao very unhappy. He immediately pointed his index finger at Sun Fang, and a golden ray of light shot out from his fingertip. It brought along an astonishing might, and its speed was so fast that it made people blush with shame. Sun Fong didn't even raise her head. It was as if she didn't notice it. Wu Ma Chao sneered. So it was just a woman who only knew how to talk big. However, the next scene caused Wu Ma Chao to lose his cool. The golden ray of light actually stopped half a meter away from the woman. It was as if it was isolated and could no longer move forward. How is this possible? Wu Ma Chao looked at his own hand. This move was able to pierce through people who were weaker than him. Even if they were at the same level, it would still be able to heavily injure them. However, in this low-level plane, it was actually blocked. If Wu Ma Chao had asked Zhu Jinqing in detail, perhaps he wouldn't have been so impulsive. After all, Wu Ma Chao believed that the Crown Prince's trifling skills couldn't even be put on the stage. It was normal for him to lose. However, he was different. This kind of thinking was indeed very scary. Actually, there was no difference between him and the Crown Prince. You guys are fighting already? Do you need my help? The Green and Red brothers suddenly appeared at the scene. Zishan and Tang Wei also suddenly appeared here. The four of them stood in the sky and curiously looked at the army of 100,000 in front of them. The scale was not small at all. They actually sent out so many cannon fodder. That's right, in their eyes, these people could only be called cannon fodder. Wu Ma Chao looked at Zishan, who was one of the two women. He thought to himself, do they look alike, or are they the wives of the Marquis? Also, what is the meaning of the sudden appearance of 2 men and 2 women? Helpers? However, only 4 came. The people of this low-level plane must have some problems with their brains. Stop messing around. Can't you see that my little skeleton is acting cool? Sun Fong laughed. The little skeleton and Wu Ma Chao looked at Death Mage, who was holding the scythe of death. Death Mage revealed his skull. Wu Ma Chao's gaze was startled. He didn't expect Death Mage to be from the undead race. He was actually suppressed by a skeleton. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if this were spread out? In this kind of trash plane, only this kind of low-level undead race would appear. Of course, Zishan knew Wu Ma Chao. However, she wasn't very familiar with him. She had heard about this person before. She quite admired Wu Ma Chao. He guarded the border all year round in exchange for peace. However, she didn't expect him to be the one leading the army today. If they could instigate this person to defect, it would be a fortunate thing for the team. General Wu Ma, Zishan shouted. Chapter 409. You are Madame Ziyuan? Wu Ma Chao looked at Zishan in the sky and asked. Zishan paused for a moment, then said indifferently, I do not have any relationship with that host Xiuolin. Please do not call me Madame Ziyuan. My name is Zishan. All right. Then Zishan, what do you mean by this? Wu Ma Chao did not want to waste any more words. This Zishan's attitude was clearly a traitor. She betrayed Heaven's manner, betrayed her faith. General Wu Ma, a wise man, submits to circumstances. If you and your subordinates surrender to his honor, then we will be able to avoid a lot of casualties. Wu Ma Chao laughed after hearing that. He did not expect Zishan to persuade them to surrender. Zishan, did I hear wrongly? You want to persuade them to surrender? I am Heaven's Manor's General Jin Yuan. My family has been guarding the border for generations, allowing Heaven's Manor's people to live a good life. This glory is my faith. And you abandoned your faith and helped the tyrant. However, even if you surrender, I will not let any of you go. Everyone in this low-level plane will pay a heavy price for what you have done. Even after death, your soul will be cursed by the heavens. Zishan shook her head after hearing that. General Wu Ma, why bother? Your stubbornness will make the warriors behind you sacrifice for nothing. What a joke. My soldiers were brought up by me. They do not fear anything. As long as it is an enemy, they will bravely charge forward, even if it means death. Isn't that right? Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Do not fear death. Waves of high-spirited voices soared into the sky. That deep and resounding voice made one's scalp go numb. The Green and Red brothers could feel it very clearly. This was morale. Zishan, it's useless. Sun Fong slowly put down her phone. She knew that Zishan wanted to persuade her people. However, it took you so much effort to change your mind. For a general to change his side just because of a few words from you, there must be a conspiracy behind it. Zishan deeply sighed and turned around, as if she did not want to see her comrades being massacred. Upon seeing that, Yihong hurriedly walked in front of Zishan. She did not know how to comfort Zishan and could only gently hug her. Wu Ma Chao snorted coldly when he saw this. A high and mighty god was actually following a lowly human. He was the scum of the gods, a disgrace to all the gods. Lowly skeleton, I'll let you see how this general breaks your bones. Just as he finished speaking, the skeleton opposite him tossed the scythe in his hand into the air. GGG, Royal Translation, Death Absorption. The death scythe in the hands of the death mage was not an ordinary item. Although in terms of toughness, it seemed to be inferior to the Xian Yuan sword, which was an ancient godly item. The death scythe was an artifact that could be used for both offense and defense. It was not a real weapon. It was just like the staff in the hands of a mage. Although its attack power was low, its magic power was very strong. The Scythe of Death followed the same principle. In the Scythe of Death, there was a terrifying power hidden within it. It was the super move that came with the Scythe of Death. Death Absorption. If it was used at this time, it would be obvious that it was an area of effect attack. If it was a single target attack, it would take a long time. Therefore, Death Mage was a very good mid laner. Sometimes he would even pretend to be a top laner, but in the end, he would be beaten to a pulp. Death Mage was a good jungler, snatching all kinds of resources. When the Scythe of Death was tossed into the air, it immediately began to spin. The speed became faster and faster, and it was as if a circular black hole had appeared in the air. Although it gave people an illusion, it was not an illusion. It was a real black hole, a black hole that led to death. A terrifying aura was emitted from the black hole. Wu Ma Chao was shocked. Everyone, listen to my command. Get into formation. Huh. The 100,000 generals shouted in unison, and they immediately blocked the terrifying aura. A barrier enveloped everyone within it. The black hole was still expanding, and the aura emitted from it was getting heavier and heavier. It was firmly suppressing the barrier. With the naked eye, it could be seen that the circular barrier seemed to be being pushed, and it looked like a bubble that was about to explode. Finally, the black hole in the air no longer expanded, but it was currently at least 100 meters in radius. It was pitch black inside, and the 100,000 soldiers could clearly see it. It was impossible to think that this was the end. The ruins of the Ji family slowly rose. Wu Ma Chao's gaze shifted over, and he saw that the ruins were actually being sucked into the black hole. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The buildings were no longer rising slowly, but were forcefully sucked in. Some trees were even uprooted. Steady! Wu Ma Chao shouted loudly. What kind of technique was this? How could it be so abnormal? All the soldiers stabbed their weapons into the ground, but the suction of the black hole was getting stronger and stronger. Their feet left long marks on the ground. Even though their weapons were cutting through the ground, they could not stop the suction. The 100,000 soldiers immediately fell into chaos. The barrier was extremely unstable. All of a sudden, the barrier broke. The moment the barrier broke, countless soldiers' bodies rose into the air, and they were mercilessly swallowed. There was no blood or violence in this scene, only painful wails. The strongest, Wu Ma Chao, shouted angrily. A layer of golden light wrapped around him, and he stabbed the ancient divine weapon in his hand into the ground. His feet stomped hard, and he sank deep into the ground. Do not panic. Resist this suction. Wu Ma Chao shouted angrily. He watched the countless figures being sucked into the black hole, but he could not do anything. Even now, he was still trying to protect himself. Many soldiers began to imitate the general, but their strength was different. Even though they were imitating, they were still sucked into the black hole. General, save me. Wu Ma Chao turned his head and saw a young and tender, looking youth reaching out his hand. His eyes were filled with panic. He probably hadn't married yet. Wu Ma Chao reached out, but he missed. He could only watch as the young soldier was sucked into the black hole. General. This time, Wu Ma Chao caught him. Vice General. General. Thank you. The Vice General revealed a smile. He was not thanking the General for saving him. He was thanking the General for taking care of him all these years. Wu Ma Chao's rigid face was also moved. Do not panic. I will have a way to save you all. However, the suction was getting stronger and stronger. The Vice General's body was lifted high as if he was being pulled by something. Wu Ma Chao's feet began to move underground. It was easy to see how terrifying this suction was. General, let go. Thank you for taking care of us all these years. The Vice General saw that the General was not letting go. He was grateful, but he could not drag the General down with him. What nonsense are you saying? We still have to go back together. Chapter 410. The Deputy General smiled and looked at his general. He did not follow the wrong person in this life. Don't let go. Hold on for me. Wu Ma Chao slightly lowered his head and spoke with a commanding tone. The Deputy General had followed him through life and death, so he naturally valued this favor. However, the Deputy General's body had already been torn apart by the suction force. Only his hand and that sincere smile remained. After an unknown amount of time, the screams stopped, and the suction force stopped as well. Wu Ma Chao gasped for breath and raised his head. I said I would. He did not finish his sentence because he saw the Deputy General. Without the suction force, the Deputy General's body drooped down. He was indeed holding onto the Deputy General's hand, but it was only his hand and that smile. Wu Ma Chao let go of the Deputy General's hand and slowly straightened his body. The black hole in the sky had already disappeared. He slowly turned his head. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind him had also disappeared. Other than his Deputy General, there was nothing left. This made Wu Ma Chao feel as if he was dreaming. A gentle breeze blew past. Wu Ma Chao took off his helmet. His rigid face seemed to have aged a lot. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and guilt. The opponent only used one move. One move. His elite army was completely gone. At this moment, Wu Ma Chao felt as if the heavens were playing a joke on him. How could there be such a person in a low-level plane like this? No wonder Zishan betrayed us and even advised me to surrender. So what she said was true. If I surrendered, I would have been able to save the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers. However, I did not listen. That's why there were so many casualties. How am I supposed to face my dead soldiers? This kind of death is meaningless. The gentle breeze messed up Wu Ma Chao's hair. His black hair was mixed with some white hairs, and they gradually turned white. In an instant, his black hair turned white. This was the self-blame of a general. He deeply regretted his orders. Wu Ma Chao suddenly knelt beside the Deputy General. He inserted both his hands into the ground and used them to dig a hole. Once, twice, thrice. Wu Ma Chao buried his Deputy General on the spot. Then he picked up the ancient godly item beside him and stood up, looking at the skeletons not far away and the people standing in the sky. Wu Ma Chao coldly shouted, "Today, you killed 100,000 of my soldiers. Tomorrow, I will kill 1 million, 10 million of you. I, Wu Ma Chao, curse all of you with my soul." Death Mage let out a cackling sound. Royal translation, curse rebound. Today, I, Wu Ma Chao, admit defeat. However, if there's a next life, I will still stand against you. Wu Ma Chao's body gradually emitted a terrifying aura. The ancient divine weapon in his hand also shone brightly. Death Mage had been waiting for this moment. It had been a long time since he had fought, and he could finally have a one-on-one fight. Be careful. He wants to detonate his primordial spirit, an ancient divine tool. Zishan suddenly cried out in alarm. The few of them were stunned. Were they not going to fight anymore? Suicide? Wu Ma Chao's heart was filled with guilt. He had already lost all desire to fight. If he had listened to the heavenly teacher's advice, then this would not have happened. Who would be responsible for the deaths of 100,000 soldiers? Only an incompetent general like him would be responsible. You guys are indeed very strong, but no matter how strong you are, you can't be stronger than a sovereign. Just wait to receive the wrath of a sovereign. I will be waiting for you on the road. Ha 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 ha. In the midst of Wu Ma Chao's crazed laughter, his body became brighter and brighter. A berserk aura swept out in all directions, and the ancient divine tool gradually cracked open. A world-destroying aura was fusing together. Death Mage let out a breath. Cackle cackle. Royal translation. Flight restriction. Wu Ma Chao was surrounded by a layer of transparent bubble. Boom! Wu Ma Chao turned into a speck of light within the bubble and exploded along with the ancient divine tool. The inside of the bubble was distorting. The multicolored energy seemed to be very violent. It wanted to explode, but it was surrounded by the bubble. ZZZT. A crack actually appeared on the surface of the bubble. Soon after, more and more cracks appeared. In the blink of an eye, the bubble exploded. The entire ground of the G family trembled, and the barrier of the G family almost shattered. If it was not for the flight restriction absorbing the first wave of damage, the consequences of this terrifying self-detonation would have been unimaginable. However, Death Mage, who was the closest to the explosion, was also affected by it. He even slid backwards. This kind of self-detonation was a qualitative change. It was not only the primordial spirit, but also the ancient divine tool. Even a pervert like Death Mage was forced to slide backwards a few meters. It must be said that Wu Ma Chao's self-detonation was quite effective. At the very least, it made Death Mage retreat. It was a loud bang. Death Mage, who was sliding backwards, felt that he bumped into something and turned his head to take a look. Oh God, my phone fell onto the ground. This is the latest iPhone XS. It was not easy for me to get Sun Fong to buy it for me, and it was the highest specs. Now that it fell onto the ground, Death Mage's heart was broken. He picked it up and took a look. If Death Mage's face had flesh, he would definitely be shocked, because a crack had appeared on the screen. I am a perfectionist. How can I allow such a flaw? Sun Fong took a look. If you don't fish in the future, I will buy you a new one. Don't fish? Aren't you asking for my life? At most, I will just play with it first. Maybe I will get used to it after playing for a while. Everyone, we will be leaving first. Sun Fong smiled and left with Death Mage. Tang Wei and Big Brother Green tactfully left as well, leaving behind Yi Hong and Zishan. Zishan's mood was a bit complicated. It was truly a pity so many people were gone in the blink of an eye. Seeing that his wife was dejected, Yi Hong lightly hugged onto her. Yi Hong, who didn't know how to speak, could only use actions to express his feelings. It was not easy for Yi Hong to take the initiative. Zishan didn't say anything and lightly hugged onto Yi Hong. Zishan, how about you don't go? Yi Hong was talking about what would happen 3 days later. It would probably be even more miserable. Zishan had killed quite a lot of people that night. She was only feeling sorry for what happened today. She wouldn't change her opinion of Zishan. After leaving Yi Hong's embrace, Zishan faintly said, I will go. Oh, all right then. Towards Zishan's request, Yi Hong agreed without thinking. Of course, if Zishan crossed his bottom line, he wouldn't agree to it. For example, Zishan's request to sleep on the same bed. Yi Hong would definitely not agree to it. Yi Hong had to make some achievements first. Only then would he have the face to sleep on the same bed as Zishan. Zishan let out a breath, then turned around and looked at Yi Hong. Pursing her lips, she said, Are you going to sleep on the bed tonight? Zishan's words had undoubtedly crossed Yi Hong's bottom line. Right now, Yi Hong was especially serious. Zishan, I'll have to sternly criticize you for this. As a girl, how can you make such a request? Even if someone is going to make such a request, it should be made by me. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. As it's the primary source of revenue, that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.